How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relief. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Good afternoon, everybody. Jeff Arrington here again, Scott County, Virginia gun owners, coming to you live from Scott County, Virginia, in the community of Hiltons, Virginia. Sitting around the fire, got the bright window here in the background. It's been a beautiful sunny day. Been outside working today, and wanted to take a few minutes to come together and bring you guys some news. By the way, a quick, just to let you guys know, I know we had said in the title that we were going to have Brother Locked and Loaded, Justin Welsh, J.D. Welsh, from Locked and Loaded on the call, but he messaged me just a short bit ago and said that he unfortunately has had a migraine kind of just hit him at the last second here. So he is unfortunately not going to be able to be on the call with us this afternoon. But we're not going to let that stop us. We've still got a lot to talk about. I see we've got some folks joining. We've got just about 10 folks online so far. But Rhonda R., it's good to see you. American Well from North Carolina. DJ Visions, great to see everybody. God bless you too, brother. It's great to see you. Great to have you online. God bless this country. Amen. Absolutely. We've got a lot of things about this country that we need to pray for. We've got a lot of people in this world that we need to pray for. So, guys, you know, it's something we don't talk a whole lot about this channel. We don't say it. I don't say it as often as I probably should. But, you know, certainly our Second Amendment rights is something that we all are about. But one thing that we all need to do is stand by each other when it comes to prayer requests as well. So if you have anything that's on your hearts, on your mind, got a need, you know, be sure to put that in the comments. There's a lot of viewers that watch these, and we do have a lot of good prayer warriors that will certainly pray for your situation, whatever that situation may be. So again, prayer requests, praise requests. We love to have those as well. So anything that's going on, having a great day. It's great to hear from you guys, and be sure to put that in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. We do have a lot of things to cover today. There's a lot of potential things I wanted to have and discuss that's happened in the last couple of days. So we do have some. If you've not been following what's happening with the news, and I've told people before, disconnect, turn the TV off. Your blood pressure is going to go down. You're gonna relax and feel a whole lot better if you can just kind of take it easy and disconnect from the digital world for a while. Just get away from the news, particularly. Go back and watch some some Gunsmoke or some Andy Griffith. Turn on that TV and try to find some of those good old classic time shows. Leave It to Beaver, whatever it may be, and just get away from the news. It's just nothing but negativity. That's what it seems to sell. So, DeLynn, David Fodder, it's great to see you on there, brother. Great to hear from you. Hey, listen, since I'm calling out David, David, if you're there, if you would, David, go ahead and post put a comment in there about USC 18, USC 242. So David has requested that we make an announcement. He's asked that everybody, if we can, try to do your part and send a note to your representatives. Send a note to the White House. Let them know that with some of the things that we think are happening in that are coming against our rights, not only the Second Amendment, but folks, we've got rights left and right that are under attack, in particular in Virginia, but all across the United States. And so, what out of Section 18 of the U.S. Code, Section 242 is a piece of legislation that essentially discusses and talks about the deprivation of rights under the color of law. And essentially what that says is that none of your rights can be infringed under the so-called pretense of legal activity. And it's something that they've been certainly working on and will continue to work on throughout the evening. So we've got Brother Wesley from Old School Wolf Media. We'll have the call-in number here just in a little bit, Wes. I don't want to go right to the calls right away, so there's a few things I wanted to cover first. But if you want to call in, guys, we are going to open up the phone lines here just in a little bit. At least I'm planning to toward the end of the show. I have a few things I wanted just to kind of talk about beforehand. And as we get toward the end, we'll open it up and do a call in. So I'd love to have you, brother, call in. David, thank you for posting that comment. Title 18, USC, Section 242. Be sure to contact your representatives about that. Wanted to get to a few agenda items and just talk about some things that's happened the last couple of days, some things that are happening in Virginia, some things that are happening with our neighbors up in Canada, and some of the sickening things that we're hearing from their representation. I cannot call them leaders up there. I mean, I guess if you want to say you're getting led down a bad path, that's a leader, I suppose. But and just some of the disgusting ways that he portrayed firearms owners, all around the world, let alone just in Canada and the United States. And then, like I said, we will open it up for calls. So if Wes, if you're wanting to call in after a while, brother, we'd love to have you call in. So let's just jump straight into this. I'm going to jump straight to the one that is probably the less meaningful for all of us, but it still has an impact, and that's what's happening in Canada. I don't know if you guys caught the headline this past week, but we have the crazy representative, Justin Trudeau or whatever his name is in Canada, that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, that banned assault-style rifles. It says it was effective immediately. Now, from what I recall, when I read about this was something that apparently several months ago, before the quarantine situation, the ruling board there, essentially in Canada, said that they wanted to do this ban. They wanted to go out and ban a whole lot of them. So, and I guess they just never got that done. And with the timing of the quarantine, it just hasn't got done until now. And Trudeau says, now's the time. Now, even if you didn't think he had an agenda and you didn't think he was part of this bigger agenda of going against human rights for, humans all around the world, the timing was bad. Whether he meant good by it or not, the timing was absolutely pitiful. I think a quarantine situation, especially by the way that he did it with a massive push like that, is setting the precedent for a very, very huge slap in the face back to him. It's going to be, I think it will have repercussions to him. I don't know if people's put money in his pocket or whatever to make him do that now, but the timing was very, very bad. You don't wait until a quarantine situation when people are locked down and they can't get out, they can't actively voice their opinion in the same way that they might under other situations, and come out and say things like, let me highlight this one piece that I want to show you. One of the comments, if you watch the video, and I'm not about to play it for you because I can't stand hearing the guy's voice, but he says, and I quote, "These weapons were designed for one purpose and one purpose only, to kill the largest number of people in the shortest amount of time." And then, of course, he goes on to say there's no use and no place for such weapons in Canada, yada, yada, yada. It bans over 1,500 models and variants of firearms with these regulations. What I wanted to highlight again is just that comment about these weapons were designed with one purpose in mind, and that is to essentially kill the largest number of people in the shortest amount of time. Why is that meaningful? I mean, it's just Canada, and I realize that it doesn't impact us here in the United States, but what impact does that have here in the United States? And it does have an impact. There's a impact that it plays, and we've talked about this on this channel, is trying to keep taking out the negativity that's associated with firearms, right? It's been an absolute endeavor by the far left and even a lot of the Democrats for decades to continue to personify evil with firearms. And we've talked about this, and we said, guys, the way that we're going to get rid of this, essentially what's being happened, and this personification of evil with firearms is going to be by undoing that by calling them firearms. We don't call them weapons. They're not weapons. A weapon is something every single person that will ever watch this video has weapons. These are weapons, right? Your finger's a weapon. You can poke someone in the eye. That's a weapon. That's assault. Simple assault can be as simple as touching someone on the shoulder. So if you have hands, if you have feet and you can kick, if you have a mouth, you can bite, you have weapons. Okay. But it's absolutely an agenda-driven item where they tried to bring on and personify firearms as being evil. And the thing with his comments that's really, really disturbing, let's get to that impact. What impact does that have to us? Basically, what he's saying is with those 1,500 models, he's saying anybody that ever manufactured those firearms or anybody that ever purchased those firearms had one intention and purpose. Because in his own words, there's only one thing, there's only one purpose, and one purpose only, and that's to kill the largest number of people in the shortest amount of time. So basically, he said that any company that's ever manufactured that, anybody that's ever bought one, that must be their purpose also. Their purpose is to kill the largest number of people in the shortest amount of time. And that is an absolute slap in the face. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. And I think personally, I'd like to see someone call him out, someone that had more influence and greater than I'll ever have, to make him apologize. That would be like me saying, Justin, the vehicle that you bought was made for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to get drunk and go drink and drive and kill somebody, right? I mean, how absurd is that comment? That's like saying that your toothbrush is only made to, cut the grass. I mean, it's an absolute absurd comment. And so it has that impact on anybody that doesn't understand firearms and doesn't understand safe firearm handling and the fact that a firearm is not dangerous. It's if I take a firearm and I set it on a table, it's as dangerous as the can I've got sitting on. I know y'all can't see I'm pointing at, but it's as dangerous as a can sitting here. That firearm on the wall you see there, whether it was that original, as they call assault rifle, which that's the original assault rifle, or if that was a fully automatic M42 machine gun hanging on that wall, it'd be a little harder to hang an M42. But if it's hanging on that wall, I can promise you, it will never, the world everybody could be caught up in the rapture. We could all go home to heaven or hell, wherever our destiny calls us to be, if you're saved or not. And that firearm would never hurt anybody sitting there hanging there. So if you say, is it dangerous? I mean, my phone's dangerous. I can hit somebody across the head with it. I've got a tape measure here. I've been doing some work today. I mean, that's sharp, right? I mean, maybe you cut somebody with it. That's dangerous, right? So is it dangerous? I mean, yes. I mean, I could take the shirt off of my back and I could choke somebody with it. I could strangle somebody. My shirt's dangerous, okay? A seatbelt is dangerous. Let's talk about something that's meant to save your life. Let's talk about a fire extinguisher. Hit somebody over the head and see if it's dangerous, okay? It's just the fact that it pushes that leftist agenda that firearms are dangerous, they're bad, and they're just not good. And so I'm going to call it short there and just say that, do whatever you can to speak out against that. Let people understand that, that's someone that's speaking from ignorance, fear, and the desire to infringe upon human rights is where he's coming from. So that's all I really want to say about that. Sammy C., it's great to see you. God bless you. Great to see your comment. Thank you for making a comment there. Sinister Italian says, during the Italian Civil War and the Middle War of World War II, my family and the rest of the village in Italy was disarmed of firearms, kitchen knives, axes, etc. by the Germans that occupied the region. Absolutely, Sinister Italian. That's exactly right. We can see atrocities time and time again throughout the entire world. And it just goes to show you that the first thing that people want to do when they want to take power is they take away your right to speak out, right? They take away your ability to defend yourself. They'll say, oh, you can still petition us to do something. Petition us and we'll take care of you. Come to the courts and tell us when you've been mistreated and we're going to take care of it. We'll help you out, right? And that's all fine and good. But folks, at the end of the day, whenever they start locking you up or loading you onto railroad carts, your petition might still be waiting at the courthouse. They might take the petition and rip it up right in front of you. They might, maybe after you're dead, they'll come back later and go, oh, Jeff was right. We shouldn't have killed him. It's a matter of how you want to do it. By the way, I'm seeing some comments here. Just a real quick shout out to some of the folks that I see are mentioning the service this morning. Let's see. It was Brother Mark Rouse. I appreciate it. He says, enjoyed the church service this morning, Brother Jeff. Glad I subbed to your father-in-law's channel. Yes, so that's on Darthula Baptist Church. So those folks of you that are, whether you're in Scott County or whether you're someone else, if you would be interested in attending a online church service, since this quarantine situation, we have started a virtual church service every Sunday at 11 a.m. We come to you live. You can do a Google search for Darthula Baptist Church. Let me just try to see if I can find it here for you real quick. And on YouTube, Darthula Baptist Church, you can find us. And again, every Sunday we come to you live at 11 a.m. with church services. Now, my father-in-law is the pastor there, Brother Leighton Bentley, Pastor Leighton Bentley. I know some of you folks in Scott County, you probably have heard the name. You probably know Brother Leighton. Let me just share my screen and show this to everybody here real quick. Throw this out there because we do know that during this quarantine situation, a lot of folks are not able to make it to church. A lot of folks are not able to be with their church members. They may not have the capability to do technical broadcasting services. So we have tried to start doing some live streams. We live stream at 11 a.m. on Sunday mornings. It's completely live. And I would ask y'all just to pray for my father-in-law because I know he's still a little nervous when he gets on there. He does a fantastic job, and I tell him he's doing fine and he's doing perfect, doing a great job. But, when you're used to preaching to faces and to your congregation, it's very different when you're looking at a camera, guys. There's nobody here. There's nobody behind here. And so it can be a very different situation. So definitely please be in prayer for him. But Mark, I appreciate you being there. He did actually, after the services this morning, Mark, yourself, and I believe Sammy and others were on there as well. And we sat around and we talked about the comments afterwards. So that was definitely uplifting to him as well. So he appreciates you guys being on there. And feel free to subscribe to his channel, by the way, guys, if you want to see some good church services. It's good messages. It's old timey. The church is here in Hilton's at Darthula Baptist Church. The name's a little funny, but Darthula was the lady that donated the land and in unison with someone else here locally back in the 1800s, as well as financially to get the church built together. And so that's why it's called Darthula, is after the lady that donated the land. So again, that may interest some of the folks out there, whether you're in Scott County or beyond. So, all right. So we got Canada off the list. We talked a little bit about church. One more thing I want to say about church. So I did say that Brother Justin was going to be on. I call him JD. He's been a lifelong friend. He was going to be on here. And I just want to tell you a real quick, a little bit of aside. We're going to step aside from the Second Amendment just for a second. This morning, as we were getting ready to go live, it was about 10 or 15 till 11. So about 10:45. And right as we were getting things set up, I sent Justin a text and just said, hey, man, we're going live in about 15 minutes. Here's the link. And it was funny because he replied and he said he had, wow, he was looking for the channel. He was trying to find it. And in that exact instant is when my message came through and I sent him a link straight to the live feed. And, we talked about this on his channel the other day. I was on his the other day and we talked about miracles. Guys, if you're willing to look around, if you're willing to open your spiritual eyes, there are miracles that happen to this very day. There's a lot of people that will say miracles don't happen anymore. Why is the Bible full of Jesus's miracles, but that doesn't happen? I would completely contest and say that there are probably more miracles that happen today. We have advances in medication and we can scientifically explain how things happen, but that doesn't mean that they're no less miraculous. Today, I use technology to send that to JD, and that's that. There's nothing miraculous about that, but the timing of the moment. He was sitting there. He was stressing out. He was struggling, trying to find that. And in that exact moment, I hadn't talked to him any other time this morning. In that exact moment, that's when the message came through. Some people call that coincidence. I say if you're willing to open up your eyes, it's something that is a little miracle in its own way. So JD needs a link. Yeah, actually, Brother Mark Rouse, Rhonda R., others, if you guys are on here, Sammy C., if y'all wouldn't care, please add JD's link to that. We could pull it up here in a moment. It's Brother Locked and Loaded. Let's go ahead and let me find his channel, pull it up here real quick as well, and show everybody that. It's Locked and Loaded 100%. Brother Justin Welsh. I call him JD. You guys will hear me when I talk to him. I'm going to call him JD because that's what he's been my whole life. We grew up together. But Locked and Loaded 100%. Guys, he has a great videos. As a matter of fact, if you come over here today, I want you all to, I'm going to click on it. It's probably going to start playing. But I want you all to watch this one right here.
Hello, YouTube.
Listen,
It's me, Justin, May 2nd,
Look at the title on
2020.
this.
And if you happen to stumble across
The title says, Canada bans assault rifles. America should do the same as soon as possible. Now, listen to what he says. I'm going to play the first minute or so of this. I hope it doesn't get some copyright or whatever. Watch this real quick.
this video because you enjoyed what the title said. Welcome to the world of clickbait. Yes, as many of us know, Canada has passed a law banning what is so-called assault rifles, and how many people in the United States want to take away our Second Amendment right. So anyways, we're going to be discussing that very soon. But once again, if you saw the title and you're far left libtard and you wanted to go ahead and watch this video and see me talk about why we should lose our Second Amendment and ban so-called assault rifles, clickbait all the way.
Clickbait.
Guys, I love that. When I pulled that up, I knew he was going somewhere because I know Justin, and he certainly is not going to support any sort of assault betting. I just love the way that he did that. Need help with the sound. Was the sound not coming through there? I'm not sure if it's coming through. Wesley, thanks for hollering out there. Guys, check out his channel. Be sure to subscribe. And I saw someone subscribe there to Darth Thula just a moment ago. By the way, guys, we got Old School Wolf Media, and I'm going to give a shout out to him as well. Brother Wesley, you check him out. Great channel, some great news that comes from there. If you want to know what's happening around the globe, I know I'm just doing a lot of talking here, guys. I hope y'all don't mind. We're still going to get through some of these things, but there's apparently an echo. There was probably an echo because I had my screen on as well as the other. Sorry about that, guys. Check it out. I'm not going to pull it back up. You guys can go watch it. Check it out. But I just love the way that he's like, yeah, you want to ban assault rifles? Yeah, sure. Pulls up his AR, blasts off a few rounds, has a little fun, smells a little bit of smoke. It's a great time. AJ, sorry there was an echo on the video. I hope the echo's gone now. I was probably sharing the audio from my microphone as well as the computer. Sorry about that, guys. It was with the video. Okay, thank you all. So we're back to good now. But be sure to check out Brother Wes's channel, Old School Wolf Media. Be sure to check him out, guys. Great news, great information over there. You'll enjoy it. Be sure to click and subscribe to his channel as well. All right, so with what's happening in Virginia, Oh, you said JD needs the link. That's what someone said whenever it said JD needs the link. I sent him the link earlier. JD, I sent you the link right here, brother. I'm going to send it to you again, my brother. Bear with me a minute, guys, because JD's still going to try to join in. He said he would try to join in if he could. So I'm going to send this to him. So brother JD, let me tell you a little bit more about him as I'm sending this to him. He is the reason we're on YouTube, guys. You know, when we were talking to our folks in Scott County, and we wanted to do a live stream to be able to bring information to folks that may not be on Facebook. Wanted to bring it to YouTube, and he helped get us up. It was him and brother. Was it Mark? I believe it was. Was it Mark? I believe was it. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed to even say it. I believe it was brother Mark Rouse. I believe it was Mark. No, it was Vern. I'm sorry. It was Vern's Prep and Survival. Sorry, Mark. I'll give you a shout out to you too, brother Mark Rouse, but it was Vern's. So brother Vern from Vern's Prep and Survival is another great channel to check out, guys. But they are the reason we're here. I sent that link to JD, and hopefully he'll join in here in a few minutes. I'm going to send it to him through Facebook Messenger as well, just to make sure he has it. Okay, he has that link now. If he joins in, we'll get him on the line here shortly. Let's talk about what's happening in Virginia. So we all know that the governor signed the bills, a lot of the bills. There's no surprise that he was going to sign a lot of the bills that passed to the General Assembly. The main thing I want to highlight out of those is the majority of those are going to take effect July 1st. Okay. Now, with the universal background checks, there was a letter that came out to Virginia FFL dealers last week. The letter basically goes through and talks about this process, talks about how for private transaction sales, those will have to go through an FFL dealer if people want to remain within these treasonous law or tyrannical laws. They'll have to go through an FFL dealer, and it was just letting FFL dealers know that you're probably going to have an influx of transactions. And of course, they can pass on the fees for those background checks. Someone said that was going effective May 4th, which would be Monday. I believe that was the date that I saw on that letter because it was, predated. Thanks, Brother Mark. It was Vern. But all the other bills, from what I understand, it should be July 1st. So if anybody knows for sure if that universal background check goes effective May 4th, I think that's just when the policy, and they're going to try to start rolling out some processes. It talked about some of the background or some of the way the methods were going to be in place for handling this influx of background checks and gun sales that they're anticipating. But as far as I know, that should be July 1st that's actually going to be valid. Everything that I understand is supposed to be July 1st when these go into effect. So just wanted to call it out to everybody. If you live in a Second Amendment sanctuary status in the Commonwealth of Virginia, I would encourage you to have communications with your sheriff, have conversations with your representatives. We are certainly by no means a legal, channel that we do legal advice or recommendations. I'll say this very plainly. The one recommendation I will always give is, first off, you need to find Christ to be your Lord and Savior, and never give up your guns. Don't ever sign on guns for a registry. Do not ever put your guns on a registry. That's me. That's me speaking for myself. I would say that to anybody I was speaking to. I'm no lawyer. I'm no legal consultant. I'm just telling you, that's something I would never do, and I would never recommend someone to do that. So anyways, Delyn says that all Virginia goes into effect July 1st. Thank you, Delyn. That's what I thought. I don't know on that letter why it mentioned May 1st, but it's not going to matter to me anyways. The only guns I have are water guns. That's just a picture. I don't really have any firearms. And I only own Nerf guns and water guns. So I guess if I buy any more, that's what I'll be buying. All right. Let's talk about something else that's coming up very, very soon. June 23rd are going to be the primaries in Virginia. So we got our primary elections coming up. That was pushed back from June 9th. We all have talked about the story where Blackface Northam has, put the quarantine in place until June 10th, and he could push it out 2 weeks. So he pushed it out to June 23rd. That's when the primaries will be happening. We constantly say on this channel, guys, that one of the things that you need to do is, if you're registered to vote, get out and vote when it matters. If you're not registered to vote, you need to register to vote. Go ahead and do that. That's important, guys. They use those numbers. Something else this particular year, it's important. If you've not already filled out your census numbers, that's very important, okay? Census is done every 10 years by constitutional process. And that's important for understanding how many electoral college votes get essentially allocated throughout our republic. So be sure to fill out the census. Again, register to vote. When time comes, get out and vote. Let's talk a little bit about how this may go on the 23rd and even into November, okay? With this quarantine situation with the COVID-19, I know personally some folks that are in that 65 and older range, and some of them have already told me that, listen, when this quarantine's over, I'm probably still going to stay in. I'm just not comfortable getting out yet. Now, like what I think every government should do is they should give recommendations. I would recommend and say to you that you have the freedom to choose. If you choose to stay at home, that is your choice. Okay. And I'm not going to criticize you for that. I'm not going to make fun of you. What I would say, what's important as a citizen, it's a duty to vote. If you don't vote, I think you don't have a lot of argument to complain, right? Because you didn't cast a vote. If you're going to stay at home, register to do a early vote or a mail-in vote. Now, I will be the first to admit I'm not a big fan of mail-in voting. It's the number one easiest way that fraud's committed. It's a whole lot harder for someone to go in person and try to sign a name and put down information in person, face to face, and lie to someone's face about their identity and try to do a fraudulent vote that way. But in mailing something in, that completely breaks. It makes it a lot easier. It breaks that human connection. It's a lot easier for someone to try to do fraud through the mail. So I'm not a fan of mail-in voting. Okay, let me go ahead and, guys, apologize. JD's going to join us, so let me hear him send this email to him. And he needed it by email. Paste, send, and let's see here. Just hit send. All right, he's got the email now. It should be on its way. I'm going to send it one more time just to make sure he has that. Let's see here. From there, very good. Let's send it one more time just to make sure he has it. It's very important that you vote. Again, you can do mail-in voting or you can do early voting. I don't like the mail-in voting, but let's use it to our advantage, okay? During this quarantine situation, if you have a weakened immune system, if you feel like you're in the age group that's maybe more susceptible to the COVID-19 virus, or if you do just want to sit home, whatever your reasons may be, guys, that's your freedom, that's your liberty. If you want a firearm, you can have it. If you don't, you don't have to. I'm an advocate of, I would tell you, I would try to encourage you to get out. If you've went to Walmart, you're probably going to be exposed to more people at Walmart than you will be at a voting booth. By the way, we got someone here. Brother Justin, can you hear us?
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear, brother. How's that headache feeling?
I'm surviving, brother. I figured I'd show you some support. Just put out a quick live stream or a video to let everybody know you're going live. I just want to say to everybody, I went out yesterday and I bought my first Joe Biden AR-14. But I've been searching all over the web. I've been to different gun stores. I cannot find the right ammo. They shoot almost like a 223, but it's a glitter shot, and I can't find the clippy things that go with the AR-14. But yeah, they shoot a puff of glitter, but I guess they're all sold out. But yeah, the Joe Biden AR-14 was very expensive. I had to donate to the Democratic Party. And so if anybody out there knows where I can find the magazine, or no, the clippy things that go in, and the proper glitter ammunition. So anyways, how's it going there, brother?
That's those clips that shoot like they're 30 round clips and shoot like 1,500 rounds in less than 1 second, isn't it?
Oh, actually, it's a 0.2 mil, way shorter than a second, and it's actually it's fully automatic.
Fully semi-automatic is what I heard. Fully semi-automatic.
That's what I meant. Yeah, you've got to pull the trigger each time, so that makes it fully semi-automatic.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here to put it up for us, man. That's fantastic.
Right.
So for my viewers who don't already know JD, or Brother Justin, as they call him on Locked and Loaded, JD, I was talking about you earlier. We actually went over to your channel, and I hope I don't get any copyright, but I showed a little bit of your video yesterday, your clickbait video.
Yeah.
I love the opening on that thing when you're like, if you saw it here, enjoy the clickbait. Bam, 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 bam. I love that opening, man. That was fantastic. But
well, that's how you got to bring in the far left. And it's not even so much the far left anymore. It's but real quick, I want to let everybody know I've been dealing really early this morning with my daughter, which I was freaked out about. Some other people do as well. I seen Sammy was in here when I was trying to upload. But I struggled all day to take a nap, and when I finally did, I woke up with a pounding headache. So, but I felt, I told you I'd go live with you today, so I'm going to plow through it the best I can, and that's enough about me. Is that 9-line apparel shirt?
Yes, sir, it sure is. It's 9-line, and actually, if you could see the back, okay, I'm going to turn around. It's going to be weird for a second. But I'm going to turn around and show you that back. If you can see that, the Doolittle raid.
That's right? Awesome.
Now, for those of you who don't know, the Doolittle, that's my mother's maiden name. That was actually my great uncle was Jimmy Doolittle. Something a lot of people don't know about me, kind of a cool history. Who's in your family? Jimmy Doolittle was my great uncle. So it's kind of a cool connection to the Doolittle raid of World War II.
That's awesome. I got my Not Today Satan shirt on.
Awesome. Jesus.
What's that, brother?
Jesus every day, right?
I try my best, brother, but we all fall short sometimes.
Every day we fall short.
I just want to thank you again. Did you tell them about what happened this morning when I was looking for your father-in-law's channel?
I sure did. I told him, I said, if you're willing to open up your spiritual eyes, there's little miracles that happen every day.
Right. That was amazing.
Tell the story from your story, Judge Eddie. Go ahead and let him hear it.
Well, I noticed what time it was, and I'm Central Time, and we had talked about he has his sermon at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and I looked. It was 9:58, and I was scrolling through trying to find it, and all of a sudden, bing! I had a message from you from Messenger, and it was the link to your father-in-law, his channel, the church, and I was just blown away. And I had goosebumps and everything, but man, what a powerful sermon. And I'm definitely going to be doing a shout out video. I'll try my best to do one tonight, but man, what a great guy. What a great guy he is. And he's you can tell he's very, very sincere. And when he's talking and he tells a story, you see him get choked up, and then I get choked up, but I needed that this morning. I definitely did.
Well, Brother Justin, it's weird to call you Justin. I was telling him too. I said,
call me JD, brother.
I'll call you JD. You and me, we grew up together. We grew up fishing on Boone Lake. Had a lot of good times. You remember we found that one monument that down there near where we fished on the lake. I mean, we've had a long history together. You and my entire family. So it's I know people know you as Justin, but to me, you'll always be JD. That's just what we call you by. Little JD sometimes, right?
You remember when the lake would go down and go hunting for fishing lures,
and remember that
they would drain the lake? The cave. Yep, I was going to bring that up. Yeah, actually, me and Rick Hamill found that cave when we were out on little canoes, and that's back when the water was up. But we saw this huge carp, and then we saw it swim into the hole. So we marked the spot, and we knew it had to be an entrance to the cave. So that winter, when they lowered the lake, we explored that thing for forever. And we did a science project, or I did a science project, but he did one too. And we started taking the stalactites. Remember they had, I think we about cleared them out by the time you all got to see the cave. And so I had my whole setup, and I had no idea that it was highly illegal to break off stalactites and stalagmites. So Mr. Edmonds, my science teacher, thank God, he told me, he's like, no, you can't have this, when I was putting it out on display. And so he discarded them for me and saved my backside, but we didn't know at the time. So, but yeah, good times, brother.
A lot of these folks this are country folks. They probably grew up playing in caves, playing in ponds, swimming in ponds, muddy water, catching catfish, all that good stuff like you and I did growing up. So we've got folks all across the U.S., as you know, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we were just talking about, we got primaries coming up here in Virginia, and we talked, there's some folks that we know they may be nervous for whatever reason about COVID-19 or whatever it may be, even after these restrictions, these tyrannical restrictions are lifted, that, they may want to stay at home and they may not want to get out and vote. And what I'm telling them is I'm saying, it's your right. You don't have to get out. You're not forced to. That's just like with firearms. You shouldn't be forced to own a gun. So what we're saying is we're telling people, either early vote or even do the mail-in vote. I'm not a fan of mail-in votes, but, let's use it to our advantage. They put it in place. Be sure your vote counts. Get your voice out. You have anything you want to add about that?
Well, the Democrats, and, whatever party that you go for, I have to admit, they always seem to find a way to assemble. You know what I mean? Even Antifa and stuff like that. But they do a lot of legwork. And they go out and they get the ballots, the mail-in ballots by, personally by hand. I think maybe if there's a possibility that, it might be kind of hard with the government shutdown. But if you have family members and stuff in church, people that are going to do a mail-in, we should do kind of mirror what the Democrats do and go ahead and pick up those ballots and hand deliver them, so we know for a fact that they don't get thrown in the trash and rewritten out. You know what I mean?
There was an article just the other day, I forget where it was at, but there was like 2,000 votes that disappeared somewhere. Do you know where that was from?
It happens all the time, man. They find them in the dumpsters. They find them in the back of people's cars. It's that's a terrible thing, with voting, and people are so discouraged to do the mail-in, etc. So, but there's a strong possibility that this election might be held off. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to get into the conspiratorial part of it right off the rip. So it's so hard right now to trust the voting, but don't not vote. Get out there and vote. But the mail-in and early mail-in ballot, I think maybe you have a way, and your vote is very, very important because of your governor.
Yep.
Definitely has to be voted out, for sure. And I think maybe if you created I don't know if you can create a Facebook page because it'd be heavily censored, maybe on here, reach out to people in the community, reach out to fellow Virginians and say, hey, let's, don't mail out your ballot. We'll pick it up for you. We'll hand deliver it, etc. And you got to vet the people that will pick it up. You know what I'm saying? I think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah. Well, there's actually something we're going to talk about here with the VCDL. That's the Virginia Citizens Defense League and a watch teams. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But, what you're saying, the thing I want to make people understand is, it's your right to vote or not, just like it is to have a gun or not. So, I'm a fan of people understanding their options and then making a choice. And so with this, here's the risk you run. If you stay at home, let's say you love your Second Amendment rights and you stay at home and you mail in vote, your mail in vote may not count. And then so, if the left, the crazy lefties that seem to be, they're running the House right now, they're running Virginia right at the moment, and they're taking us downhill very quickly. That's the risk that you run. And I was saying right as you were joining in, I said, listen, if you've made a trip to Walmart or to Lowe's, you've been around more people than you will probably be at the voting booths, because they spread those things way out. They're like 6 feet apart, 10 feet apart, because they want your vote to be private. So, I strongly encourage people to go wherever your precinct is, go into your voting district, go early, go in the morning, go during the daytime when everybody's at work. I know I'll speak for myself here in the community of Hiltons. You can get down here and vote and be done in 3 minutes. It's just walk in. There's usually like maybe 10 or 15 people there, and you're out in no time, unless you go when it's maybe a little more crowded. But the risk that you run is your vote may not count. So you have the freedom. I would encourage you to, do whatever you choose, but understand your options and understand what the risks may be associated with those options, right?
Absolutely. And it is very risky. And I happen to see you got a lot of people jumping in the chat here. I don't know.
We got
how many people?
Mark Rouse. We got 29 folks online, 29 folks watching. We've got let's see, DMD Mod, Chrissy, Rhonda R, Mark Rouse is in the house. Got several folks online. We see Missouri stands with Virginia. This is from Wild Turkey 38. Looks like
Wild Turkey. What's up? I know everybody here. Thank you all for coming over. I know a lot of people. I wish I would have been able to get a video out on the your father-in-law's sermon once again, but
well, we pulled up earlier and showed it as well, and as well as yours. So if we got any new folks, we certainly want them to go over and try to subscribe. And if they'd like to have some, Sunday morning services, it's a great place to go see a good sermon. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. You are blessed to have a father-in-law like that, for sure.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Hey, on that same topic about choices and options, JD, let's throw this out there, because that was actually something on your broadcast the other day. I love the way you put this. And it's something for folks to consider. The way you have a good way of words when you were saying that, if someone's breaking into your house, it's going to be a thug. A lot of times it may be a felon, maybe 5, 6 people, maybe one person, but they come through your door with a firearm. It's your right to choose if you want to say, I don't want a gun. And, and you were talking about choosing ideology over the safety of your family. Can you talk a little bit about, because the way you work, I'd love for our viewers to hear what you had to say about that.
Well, that is something I'm very passionate about. I've made that video several times over. And it's not even, I'm finding out it's not so much the far left as well, people, conservatives or whatever. But if you are head of the household, meaning the man, the husband, or if you're a single mom and you've got, young children, or a single father, etc., and you choose an ideology that you do not want any handguns or any type of weapons in your house because you're far left and you've been, brainwashed that assault rifles and everything are dangerous. You're terrified of guns. A lot of people that are terrified of guns haven't been trained or have never fired a handgun. Usually when somebody shoots their first handgun, no offense, mostly females, they're very nervous. But after they pull that trigger that first time, they get that, they get pumped up, and then you can't get them off the range. But God forbid somebody kicks in your door, and 99.9% of the time, the ones that kick in your door are convicted felons.
Mm-hmm.
They do not have the right to own a gun. So you have like Chicago with the strictest gun laws and murders, etc. They used to be the murder capital of the United States. But if somebody were to kick in your door and harm your children, because it's kind of hard to explain. It's not hard to explain, but you just put me like front and center here. So, but choosing your ideology of I don't want any weapons or any guns in my hand, you put your children, your husband, your wife, everybody's lives in jeopardy, because in some households you call the shots, so choosing I don't want guns in my house, blah 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 blah, I don't believe in them, they're dangerous, they're only for Bible thumping crazy rednecks. Like I said, somebody kicks in your door, 3 or 4 masked gunmen come in. Well, guess what? What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to try to talk them down. I'll use kinder language than I do on my channel. But if that were to happen, and it does happen every day, and
Yep.
People always say, oh, that never happens around here. You see them on the news, a gated community. You know how easy it is to get into a gated community. I've done construction my whole life. It's very easy. Just going to, you could have a van or whatever, or work truck, and just say I'm working so-and-so, and then boom, you're in. But just like I said, if you, God forbid that happens, and you hear your daughters being beat up and raped, or you hear your wife being beat up and raped, it's your responsibility to protect your family. But you chose your ideology over the safety of your family.
Yep.
It's almost like it's an insurance policy. You got to be on a level playing field. Yep. And like I've said before, a lot of people that break into your house, they're cowards. They don't want to go to work. They just want to steal and rob from you. And even if you were to, probably terrified, but if you had a handgun nearby, or a little .22 rifle, or which I prefer for home defense, my 12 gauge with slugs. If you were to pop around, and if you know for sure somebody's kicked in your door and you can hear them, you pop off a couple rounds in the ceiling, they're going to turn around and run. 99.9% of the time they run because they are cowards. But don't choose your ideology. Learn how to shoot a gun. Don't be afraid of a gun. And that way, and hope that you never have to use it.
That's right.
But like I've said before, if you're a parent and you're driving 150 miles an hour down the road, and you got 2 kids in the back and they're not buckled up, and you lose control of that car and you go in the ditch and you roll, and your children are ejected and they die, you will be charged with vehicular homicide or manslaughter. So it's kind of the same premise. It's your responsibility that your kids are buckled up and that you obey the speed limit. And it's a whole different thing when you're driving by yourself. But when you got children, precious cargo, same thing under the roof of your house. Precious cargo, it's your job as a man, or a mother that doesn't have a man in her life or whatnot. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion.
Well, and that van analogy I think was perfect, because it is interesting that when it comes to vehicles, you're required to protect your children, so-called protect your children by putting them in a safety belt. But when it comes to inside your house, that's completely different. And that was the part of the analogy that I thought was I had never thought of that analogy. I'd never thought about that comparison. And I know there's all sorts of people that will talk about the differences between them. And there are differences. But to me, the key of it is, again, you have your freedom. You have your right. If you don't want a firearm, like I said here a minute ago about voting, that's your choice. But understand what risks you're accepting. And if you want to say, you know what, if someone breaks in here, I'm going to accept the risk that it may take the police 15 minutes to get here. If that's your choice, that is your choice. That's your right. I would not tell you that you're stupid. I would not tell you that you're an idiot or that, you should be forced to have a gun. It is your right. I may disagree. And I would say, well, that's not what I would do. It's not what I would recommend. But it is your choice. And so just understand what risks you would take if you accept that. If I have a firearm in my house, for instance, I do take the risk that, maybe one day I turn into a zombie and I'm going to pull it down and shoot myself or somebody else, right? I mean, that's a risk. I mean, it's pretty absurd. It's pretty ridiculous. There are risks either way. And that's the great thing about our country is we're supposed to be a free society where you can make choices about yourself and your own protection. Your rights stop when you start infringing upon other people's rights. When me owning a firearm, even if I had a fully automatic machine gun, it doesn't hurt anybody. I mean, if I go start shooting somebody and I'm infringing on someone else's rights, okay, then we can have a conversation about how it should be restricted. But up until that point of time, that's a free society, folks. It's no different than taking my car. They shouldn't require that, before you get in your car, you have to, be tested for alcohol at your front door when you're in your own driveway. Everybody work. So you have the freedom of choice, and you should have the freedom of choice is what I would say. But I love the analogy to the van.
Yeah, it's just, that's just something I'm very passionate about. And sometimes, as subscribers grow, you have to kind of redo that message. Some of the loyal subscribers, sub/friends, brothers and sisters of Christ, they know that I've done that video, but sometimes I have to redo it because, kind of, touch up on, a very important topic, and especially the days that we're looking at. But you just said something that sparked, in my head, the history of suicide in my family. You know that personally. You knew my mom. She's a wonderful woman, and my two uncles. I get so fed up when I hear the left say, if we do away with the Second Amendment, it'll save lives from suicide. I'm going to tell you all something. If a person is down and out and, and they've made that decision that they're going to take their life, if they don't have a handgun, they will find a way. They will hang themselves. They will step out in front of a train. They will step out in front of a semi. If they can't swim, they'll jump off of a bridge. So you can't use the fact that getting rid of guns is going to save lives. Like somebody's going to lose a family member and or lose their job and lose their house and everything, and they're so depressed and they don't want to live no more. I pray for people like that in that situation. I've been there. But you think they're going to say, crap, you know what? I'm going to have to just keep living my life because I don't have a gun. I don't have the right to own a gun. No, they're simply going to wrap something around their neck. And, and another thing, when the left inflates the numbers of deaths that are occurred by guns and handguns, they don't put in the factor of people that have taken their lives, so it's like, it sounds like a big scary number, but I think it's 32% of all deaths by handgun or long rifle is suicide, but they leave that little part out so they can inflate the numbers and scare,
Yep.
And then one more point I want to make. I know this is your platform, brother, and I'm so proud of you, how far you've come, but do look at so-called assault rifles, which I get so sick and tired of that assault rifle, garbage. But more people die each year by baseball bats and hammers than long rifles, and that's a proven fact. Murders. I'm talking homicides, hammers and baseball bats, and just look up the statistics, and you'll find that to be true. And long rifles and ARs or whatever are like the least, that kill people intentionally. Sammy C's in the house. Sister Rhonda R. Wild Turkey's in the house. David Photo. I can't spell or read. Brother Michael Gale. Diane Blue. Sister Diane Blue. Sister Sam Report. I thank everybody for that did get my video that's jumped in. So, anyways,
from your channel, JD. So I appreciate those viewers.
Oh, but what I get to do is I get to thank you. It's an honor that you brought me up here, and I was laying there. I was like, oh, my head's pounding me, but I said I can't leave, an invite like this open. So it's an honor to be here, and I'm so proud of how far you've grown. I've known you since we were both. You're a little shorter than me at time. I remember you were going to be a pro basketball player, one of the best basketball players I knew. Man, I think you bypassed junior varsity. You went straight to varsity, didn't you?
Yeah, I was back in the days when I was a little bit healthier, JD.
Yeah, we both were.
Yeah.
But going back to your topic, yeah.
Well, and I was just saying, you again, thank you, because you're the reason that we're here. I was telling folks earlier how you're the one that got us started on YouTube. If it wasn't for you and Brother Vern from Verns and Prep, we wouldn't even be here. So I truly appreciate you guys coming on.
All glory to God, brother.
One thing I want to throw out here, so it was interesting, because I want to go back to what you were saying a few minutes ago about with the mail-in votes. Maybe there's some sort of a unity thing that we can do within our communities and groups to make sure that those folks that maybe aren't comfortable going in person, to make sure that their votes make it to those voting stations. And so I'm not sure what's involved. Delynn, I hope you're still watching. Delynn is one of our administrators in Scott County VA gun owners. She is our go-to person when it comes to just how a lot of the things in the county politically and government, how it works. She knows that stuff. She's fantastic at it. So Delynn, I know, for instance, if you wanted to register people to vote, there was a certain process and a form through the county you had to fill out in order to get people registered. But I like what you suggested, and it's something we need to look into. And as far as coordination, Delynn has also recently been selected as our VCDL watch team contact. So it was actually kind of funny. We talk about little miracles. About a week ago or so, I was thinking about some of the follow-up, and I'm going to talk more about this in a second, that we're doing here in our own county related to Senate Bill 35, and I'll elaborate on that in a moment. But I was thinking about that, and I thought, man, we really need to see how is Senate Bill 35 being handled across all the counties across Virginia. And if you all remember during the sanctuary status movement, VCDL had that map that was showing each county as it turned green, saying, hey, they've got a sanctuary status. They've got a sanctuary status. And it was this map that continued to grow so that you could see the statuses of all the things across the counties. And I thought, we need that for this Senate Bill 35 and other things when we're trying to coordinate things across the Commonwealth. And because as some of our viewers may also know, we've started a panel discussion, and we've started a regional group, as well as groups that goes up as far as Fairfax. We've got contacts through many counties across the Commonwealth, and that's continuing to grow for this exact purpose. Whenever we have an initiative or something that we want to do, and we need to call more people and get involved. And it was funny because I emailed Philip Van Cleve, who's the president of the VCDL. We had him on a panel discussion here about a month ago or so. And I just emailed out and I said, hey, Philip, I said, can you help me out? I said, do you know of any resource, or are you aware of any resource where we can put together and follow the status of the counties for Senate Bill 35 across the Commonwealth? And just like this morning with you, JD, it was funny because he emailed me back within like 5 minutes, and he said, that's really funny. You should email me that. He said, we were just talking about that with our board today, and stay tuned. I'm going to have something. I'm typing up an email to all the VCDL members right now.
Awesome.
And it was awesome. Within about an hour, he sent out a note. So they've put together these groups called VCDL watch teams.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody's out there, and I'm going to put a banner across here for our email, if anybody's out there and you're interested, if you don't know, if you would be interested, if you're in the Commonwealth of Virginia and you don't know if you have a VCDL watch team, email us. You can email us at scottcountyvagunowners@gmail.com. We can get you that email. If you go to the VCDL and do a search, if you just do a Google search for VCDL watch team, it'll bring up a link. You can go straight there. They have the county listing, and you can see if there's a contact for your county. If there's not, email us or email the VCDL if you'd like to volunteer for that position. This is going to happen by the ground root, by grassroots efforts of us taking back this state. So if you'd be interested in volunteering, please volunteer and get back on and let us know. Jay, you got something to say? Are you getting ready to say something?
Haven just called me, so she saw that I was live. No, that's all right. She said she'll call back, but no, go ahead.
No, that's what I was just going to say. You know, when you're talking about trying to coordinate that, I'd like to say maybe see some of our regional teams try to maybe say, hey, you know, if you're staying at home and you can't get out, you know, contact us and we'll find out whatever legalities you have to be able to deliver those mail-in votes, but make sure they get counted, right?
Right. And there's something I want to say, and I noticed that Sister Sam Reports is in here. I was on a live stream last night with the Wake Up, which is a wonderful truther channel. And there was a guy on there named Patriot something. But he said that what happened in Virginia, the Second Amendment rally that you were a part of, you went to, that it didn't affect or help anything. And I was like, well, that's a complete lie, you know. And I even told him, I said, you know, I'll send you the link to the channel, but after a while I couldn't take no more of them. But can you explain to some of the people that are just coming in, and so I could send this link to Brother Josh? He actually lives in Green Bay. He's about 60 miles from me. Good to see you, Brother Josh. What exactly did that rally do? Because I know there was a lot of laws that did not pass that were basically put on the back burner for a whole another year to something. So for people that say, "Oh, that rally didn't do nothing," I beg to differ, and that's what I was trying to tell that guy. Because he
absolutely, yeah. So the biggest victory that had, in my personal opinion, it actually goes beyond even the bills that were put down. It was the first that I'm aware of very, very large gathering in the Commonwealth of Virginia of citizens showing up and showing a united front that said, "Listen, first off, we don't believe in these tyrannical laws. They're wrong. They're infringing upon our human rights, right? Not just the second, right? These are our human God-given rights.
God-given rights, absolutely.
That united front to me was the most important thing. But let's talk about, you know, if someone wants to hear something concrete, what did it do? The biggest bill that would have been the most troublesome of all the bills they were putting forward was a House bill. It's HB 961. And that was essentially, if you're familiar with the Clinton assault weapons ban of 1994, it was that on steroids, right? It maybe wasn't as strong as what just happened in Canada with, you know, crazy Trudeau. 1,500 different models, but there was never any clarity about how many models it would have, you know, basically made a felony to own. It wouldn't surprise me if it would have approached 1,500, because again, they speak from a side of ignorance when they say, "Oh, it's only 100 or 150 models." Well, they don't understand firearms, right? I mean, there's a semi-automatic 30-06 that came out in like 1905 that was your granddaddy's deer hunting rifle, and by that law, it was going to be considered an assault weapon and was going to be a felony to own.
Correct.
And so that bill was the most troublesome bill that they put forward, and in very, very large respect, that bill was overturned specifically because of the rally. That was a direct cause of the numbers that showed up at the rally in Richmond.
Right. And I mean, for you to be a part of history like that, you and your brother Jason, you know, once again, I was never so proud. And for that certain person or other people that strongly believe that nothing was accomplished by that rally is completely false. And like you said, that the biggest bill that was you know, overturned, so to speak, would have made so many people felons overnight, you know. So my hat's off to you, brother Jason, in the house.
He's here.
I didn't even notice him. And Sister Sam,
Delynn just posted that comment, that link, by the way, to the VCDL watch team, just as folks are interested. So as we're calling out some more names here.
Absolutely.
Ms. Mary's on the house too.
Ms. Mary and Sam Reports. I love what she says. United we stand, divided we fall. And that's what the government wants more than anything. Traitor Trudeau. You got that right, Josh.
I saw that was great.
You know, it's a shame. And you know me on my thoughts and my views. Eric Watchman's in. Thanks for jumping on, brother. could that have been an agenda, false flag type event to go ahead and snatch up the so-called assault rifles?
Yep.
Like you said, this could be an assault lighter.
That's right.
This can be an assault Alex Jones Constitution book that I got from if I smack somebody in the face. It's
right.
just it's ridiculous. And and you look at, okay, here's the 308 round, but you look at the 223 round, it's tiny. It's got a lot of powder in it, velocity wise, but you've got your plus your 30-06. I mean, I wish I've got a round here, a couple rounds here somewhere, but it's propaganda and it's misinformation, and all these people that are just brainwashed into believing guns are scary, guns are bad, stricter gun laws, and that's just pure garbage.
It's ignorance. It's pure ignorance speaking. And anytime ignorance speaks, there's that one movie. You see it a lot of memes where the guy goes, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Everyone in this room is now a little bit stupider because they just or whatever, And that's who speaks. That's what it's like. It's like, man, I just feel like brain cells leaving because it's like spreading such ignorance. I mean, it's the same when Hillary talks. It's the same when any one of the crazy leftists, as I call them, when any one of them talk, it's just like, guys, you are spreading so much ignorance. Just if you're so scared of the truth. I mean, what does it say about someone if they're so scared of the truth?
Right.
I mean, just let you stand, man.
Real quick, I want to say hi to Sister Lisa Webby. She's a veteran from the Gulf War.
Awesome.
Oh, I gotta sneeze. Tell everybody thank you for coming in. But one thing that really upset me, and that as soon as I saw Sister Lisa, that's what I call her. As soon as I saw her come in, boom. The law that was passed in Florida, and I believe it's possible other states, where they up the age to 21 years old to buy a long gun, that made me so angry. And a lot of people have talked about it, but it's okay to send our children, our young children at the age of 18,
right,
overseas, and here you go. Here's you an M16 or whatever, weapon of choice they're using at the time. Yeah, I want you behind this 50 cal. You do 2 tours in Afghanistan or Iraq, etc. And you're 20 years old when you come back. And you come back into civilian life and you're trying to adjust. And you decide you need some, you want a 12 gauge for home defense or something like that. And you go to fill out the paperwork, not knowing they passed that law when you're over there fighting for our country, seeing your friends get killed right beside you. And they say, oh, sorry, you can't buy that because you're only 20, you're not old enough. And it's like, that just blows my mind. I was in the military at the age of 17. Thank you so much again, Sister Lisa, for your service. And, Brother Michael Gale, a veteran. You got Brother Mitchell Reese, who's a veteran. A lot of veterans. Jose, hey, Justin from North Texas. What's up, brother? This is cool that I can see the chat, because when you're trying to send it to me on the phone, I can't see the chat.
Gotcha.
But going back to the ballot thing, I think that's something you should really focus on.
I like that.
And because the Dems do it all the time.
Yep.
And not to sound, I'm not sounding. They go into the hood. They go into the low income housings and stuff like that. That the Democrats always get their votes. They go and they personally pick them all up.
Sure.
And they do sort through them.
The Democrats have done a fantastic job. The Democrats have done a fantastic job in the past decades attacking and slowly taking away our rights. You've got to give them credit for that. You can't take that away from them. They've done a good
That's what
job.
I'm saying.
So let's look at the playbook. We don't have to recreate the wheel. Let's look at what they've done. They've done it through I would say, devious indoctrination. What I would rather do is by enlightening education, right? Let's enlighten people. We don't need to be devious. We don't need to hide from the truth. We don't need to tell false stories and make up stories to let people understand the reality of their rights and firearms and how firearms are a rich part of our heritage. They're a rich part of American history. And they're a rich part and an essential part of human rights. I tell people all the time, it's not a firearms issue. This is a human rights issue. It's not just firearms that matter here. If they take away your firearms, don't worry. It's not going to be long. And they're going to be coming saying, hey, listen, the Holy Bible, that just ain't going to cut it anymore. That's spreading all kinds of bad things. And, it talks about, people shouldn't have this lifestyle or that lifestyle, or, there's a non-binary gender that the Bible doesn't talk about. And, so therefore it's oppressive. And don't think that won't happen, folks, because it will happen. There's two genders, right?
Exactly. Male and female. There's two genders. There's not, unicorn, half octopus, half unicorn, and whatever. But I just lost my train of thought once you threw that gender question at me, or that just throws me for a loop. But for people now in this time that we're living in, people can't say, "Oh, that can't happen." Oh, that won't happen here, because did we ever in our lives think that we would be told by our governors, by whatever, that shelter in place, this and that? When I first started reporting on that, I had so many trolls saying, "Oh, that'll never happen," like in Texas and stuff. And I do breaking news that, look, they're fixing to, have a lockdown, shelter in place. People are like, "Oh, I live here. It's BS, blah, 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 blah." And now look at it. Look at, New York. And it's funny how the left have, the selective amnesia, because what happened in the beginning, you had Nancy Pelosi down in Chinatown, saying everybody just, do what you have to do. The virus isn't that, they're blowing it all out of proportion. Go to the parades and celebrate Chinese New Year, go to Chinatown. And then all of a sudden it was complete, oh, it's all Trump's fault, because, Trump didn't shut down. First, when he shut down the flights from China, he was racist. But then afterwards, this took off, supposedly, this pandemic. When it took off, then it was Trump's fault for not shutting down sooner. So it's just such a wishy-washy, the Democratic Party years and years ago, they weren't radicalized. The far left, they're nuts.
Yep.
And your governor, I hate to say this on your channel, but there's a special place in hell for him, because when he talks about when about aborting or having a child outside of the womb, and I remember hearing that, and actually I saw the video of it when he was on the radio talk show, or a radio station talking about it. And it's like when I look at Cuomo, you look into their eyes, they're like, they have no souls, no purpose. And it's just, it's crazy.
You mentioned the video. It was interesting. When I heard that, I totally thought there's no way it's just false news. And even for a good cause, I'm not a fan of false news. I don't like spreading rumors. I don't like spreading false things. And when I first heard that, I thought there's no way he actually said that. When I went and saw the video and it was absolutely factually true, don't get me wrong. My immediate emotion was just like, I wanted to slap him, but there's, you need to have some sympathy for that guy, because he's lost. He does not know Jesus is his Savior. There's just no way. Jesus is not in his heart. That man needs to open his heart. He needs to get saved. He needs to find the Lord, because he is not of the Lord. Satan is overwhelming his life right now. People.
He's a minister of Satan, if you ask me. And like I said, not today, Satan. Ain't happening.
Yeah, but well, Jen, let me throw one more thing. Have you heard about the recent Supreme Court ruling that happened on Friday? Did you hear about the news on that?
Okay, hold on. Let me think, because my head's still hurting. I know it was a good one. Shoot. Now you put me on the spot.
They dealt with New York. Did you hear about it?
New York. Oh, actually, they didn't overturn it, did they?
So there was a ruling that's been. It's interesting. On the surface, it sounds bad, but underneath, I think we've got some really good things coming for Second Amendment folks. So I'm going to pull up my phone here to make sure I call this out exactly right, because I had it pulled up on an article here. But there was a case that was waiting to come to the Supreme Court around gun rights in the city of New York. There's an interesting, it was funny reading this a little bit more. I never knew about this when it comes to Supreme Court rulings. and not only even in lower level courts, this happens a lot. If there's a ruling that comes up and it deals with a particular law, one of the easy ways that townships and smaller governments get out of trouble is they change the law.
Yeah, they changed it while it was. Yeah.
Okay. And so it's called they make it a moot point, right? Mm-hmm. And so it basically, once something is added to the calendar to be reviewed, it will be reviewed. And in this instance, New York was scrambling. They knew they were going to lose it. They knew for a fact that the Supreme Court was going to rule against them. So they scrambled and they got this law changed before it came up, because they basically dismissed it. And that's exactly what they did. They say, based upon moot point ruling, we're not going to review this. We're just going to dismiss it. And on the surface, that almost seems like a victory for New York. But what was interesting is, and it particularly goes back to what I believe it was Cuomo that made a comment about this ruling. He came out and he was talking about the ruling, and somewhere in there he made a comment that almost came across as a threat to the Supreme Court of the United States. And he made some comment along the lines of, the Supreme Court needs to basically get their act in order before. You're
talking about Chuck Schumer, right?
Was it Schumer that said that? Okay, it was Schumer.
Yes. Thank you. Chuck Schumer.
And he kind of threatened the Supreme Court justices.
He almost got in a lot of trouble, and I don't know why he didn't. He definitely did. If you go back and hear the wording, it was a threat. And then it was almost like Maxine Waters saying, if you see a Trump supporter, get in their face and yell and scream, all that stuff. But it was a direct threat. But he said it was, I forgot the terminology he used, but it was, Chuck Schumer. That's another one.
Well, on my list. So the good thing out of that is that apparently kind of, I guess, maybe just lit the fires on some of the Supreme Court justices. So the closing part of Friday's meeting, as the Supreme Court met, was to add things to their calendar. And they added 10 more items. There's a list here. I could maybe share the link later, but there was 10 more items. You got like Mance versus Barr, Roger versus Grewal, Pena versus Haran, Gould versus Lipson. These are all cases that have been on the docket to be brought up to be reviewed by the Supreme Court. And the way that works is essentially there's always this huge list that the Supreme Court has to choose and pick to say, okay, we're going to hear these cases and put it on the calendar. Well, after that New York case happened, they added 10 more items that deal specifically with the Second Amendment. So things, there's a challenge in California law banning most commonly used handguns, a challenge in New Jersey's handgun carry permit scheme, whether a federal ban on interstate handgun sales violates the Second Amendment. They added 10 items that they're going to bring up related to the Second Amendment. And this is huge because right now there is I'm just going to say there are people that are honest-minded, they understand the Constitution. They believe in the reality of God-given rights. And right now, that's the majority on the Supreme Court. There are a few that they don't. They don't believe in your right. They don't believe in God's given rights. They don't believe in the Constitution. They don't support the Constitution. But right now, the majority does. And they're going to hear these 10 cases, and that's going to be a huge victory for gun owners whenever that eventually happens. Absolutely.
And Kavanaugh's one, that goes back to, it's amazing. There goes the far left selective amnesia. Because Kavanaugh, they roasted him. They pretty much nailed him to the stake and burned him like a witch, Salem witch. And then you look at Joe Biden and all his allegations. It blows my mind. But I honestly want people to kind of back off Joe Biden and be like, the Republicans, like, all right, just be quiet. Let him run against Trump. But this is kind of off topic, but I think if they mess with the votes like they're so good at, and for some crazy reason Biden wins and he's elected president, I honestly, people say Cuomo, people say the other woman, I can't remember, out of California, African-American woman, but anyways, I think Hillary's could be a running mate. And what would happen? He becomes president. Then they invoke the 25th Amendment, because you all know that I kind of feel bad for Joe Biden in a way, because they're using him like it's almost like if you had an old grandpa and you pushed him out on the corner to hold a sign, homeless or whatever. They're using him, and that man should be, resting or what, I don't know. But
half the time he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know his own name. And if he did win the White House, he wouldn't even know how to get there. So, you know, it's not to get onto politics like that, but it's just well,
you know, you're talking about that, Jay, and I just want to call out a comment that David, I always pronounce his name. It's Fodor or Fedor. I'm not sure exactly how Fodor. I'm not sure how he pronounces that. But you know, he says at a point, we need good men and women to step up and serve our country by running for office. And I think he's exactly right. You know, in your local counties, guys, there are so many Democrats across the United States. They get elected because no one's running against them. Nobody.
It's true.
So, you know, speak up, you know, stand up.
AOC.
That's right. That's exactly right.
AOC was one of them. If she would have had somebody going up and, you know, exposing her radical ideas, you know, their ideas are just completely off the wall. And one thing that was funny is, going back to New York City, I don't know if you know how to do the screen share, but you should one time search the Bill de Blasio and Sean Hannity interview. And he continually asks Sean Hannity, he says, why can't citizens of New York City own, you know, handguns or, you know, to protect themselves? And he constantly he dodges the question. He's like, we have the best police force. They will protect you. And then Hannity's like, you have guards all around you. How is it not? I mean, oh, you already found it.
Yeah, I was just sitting here looking. I'm not sure. Several of these are pretty long, but yeah, I see several different ones here that could be it. Yes.
I mean, if you just hear the hypocrisy just for a minute and how he dodges the question, I'm echoing pretty bad.
Well, yeah, and you know what? Until I figure out the audio issue, I don't want to hit play because I tried that earlier before you joined in, and there was a bad echo. So I'll hold off right now. So
yeah, I'll have to share that if I'm feeling better tomorrow or whatever. But you know, I'm glad that when you said that about New York, it's just the hypocrisy of all these. What was it? Alyssa Milano that was having an anti-gun rally a couple years back, but she had armed security guards.
Exactly.
That were, I was like, you know, it's crazy. And, but I think, you know, you've got a great thing going on here in this movement. You got the call-in show.
Real quick, I just the last few minutes we talked.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be awesome.
The last few minutes. If anybody wants to call in, guys, we're opening up the lines. Feel free to call in. We'll get you on here if you want to just make a comment, prayer request, you know, ask us about topic. We got through all the things. Jenny, if you don't care, the last thing I want to throw out here, one of my last things to throw down for our folks in Scott County. About a month ago, we did a firearm giveaway. We gave away a Palmetto State Armory AR-15. Gentleman here in Scott County, firearms. Awesome. And from those funds, so all the folks that donated, first off, thank you, because buying those tickets made what I'm getting ready to announce a possibility. We have a flyer. If you live in Scott County and you receive, I believe it, and Delenn, you can correct me here if I'm wrong, but I believe if through the Scott County Star, through the mail, there's going to be about 5,000 flyers that are going to go out in the county starting this next week. So they were delivered last week, and because of those funds from that raffle giveaway, a flyer will be coming out in the mail this week. It's a flyer that we kind of put together, talks about who we are, what we do. And you know what, while we're doing this,
I want you to mail me that flyer too, by the way.
I will, absolutely. Let me pull up one more thing. And I'm going to share my screen again. I think I had, it's because I had the audio still shared. Is there still an echo now, or is the echo gone?
It's gone.
Okay, perfect. So if you go to Scott County VA Gun Owners, there's available video, it's unavailable, but go to scottcountyvagunowners.com. It's interesting. That video was on YouTube, so I'm not sure why that's blocked. I'll get that figured out later. But essentially, go ahead.
You got to go into YouTube Creator. You accidentally have it on private. Gotcha.
You know, this talks about who we are, what we're doing. You know, we're founded. We're just made up by citizens. It's like this YouTube channel. This isn't ours. This is everybody else's. This is your all's channel. You know, what we're doing here in Scott County, if you want to be a member of this and you're in Scott County, we have something that you can do to help out with. But the flyer, of course, has a link to that website. You can look it up. It also has a link to our YouTube. So we hope to maybe get some folks and reach out. Again, this is all about trying to get a community together, grassroots, take back Virginia, right? I mean, we want to take back our state. We lost it, quite frankly, in the last election for a number of reasons. I wrote an article that's supposed to be getting published in New Hampshire. I've still not heard back from that gentleman. As a matter of fact, I'll probably send him a note tonight. It was a really, really rather long article, but I think it was a very good. He pushed me to get a little bit more into the numbers, into some of the tactics, which was a good exercise on my mind. One thing I told him is I said, I can't point to another state that has lost their rights like Virginia has that then took it back over. I said, the last thing I can refer to where that happened that was probably meaningful to most readers and viewers is in 1776. So I said, I can't relate to a more modern example. He was wanting to have analogies and examples. And I said, there's not another example that I can think of in modern history in America. But, it pushed me to think about it a little bit more. And how can I show folks that, yes, this can be done. And the one thing I will say is the Democrats did it in the last voting cycle. So that actually is a modern example. It was primarily, we had our rights. The Democrats, through their little conniving and lying and ignorance, they were able to take it over. And now they're shoving infringements down every legal American's throats, which is just terrible. But we'd love to have some callers call in, guys. If y'all want to call in a question for me or JD, or just a comment, maybe prayer request, whatever it may be. I know we've been going for an hour and 25 minutes, but we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes. Any other thoughts, JD?
I'm having a blast. One thing I want to talk about too is just by looking at your beautiful rifle there on, above your mantle. I love that thing. But there's so many people out there, and there's going to be so many people now with the possibility of this food shortage that are going to be relying on their rifles to go hunting, to bring in food. That lack of meat, that's coming on through this, pandemic, whatnot. There are so many people that feed their families. Now there are that hunt for sport, and stuff like that, which is, I love venison. I just haven't yet been able to, shoot one myself because, if I find a spider, I let it go outside. But if the time comes, I need to feed my family or whatever, I would have no problem,
That's right.
But it's crazy that. And another thing, I think the reason why so many Democrats in the far left, a lot of them that are so radicalized, that they don't have a relationship with God. And they think that after this world's over, that when you die, they're either Satanists, and they think that the devil's going to be like, hey, great job you did up there. You caused all kinds of havoc. Here, you got a special place here, throne. No, the devil's going to kick them right in the backside into the lake of fire and be like, ha, you sucker. But if you don't have faith and you don't believe that there is forever eternal life after death, then, why would you have a moral compass, so to speak? You know what I mean? That's why they infringe on laws. That's why they only think about themselves, etc. And
I would add to that too. As someone that doesn't believe in eternal life and doesn't believe in God, first off, people consistently try to sell the irrational, completely wrong thought that our country was not founded on Christian principles. Guys, it's an absolute fact. You can go back. It is absolute. Were there some founding fathers that maybe had some different views than the more fundamental Christians of the day? Yes. Were there some people involved in the founding of our country that maybe weren't Christians? Yeah, there were probably a couple. But the majority by far were very Christian people. They were God-loving people. They had Bibles. A lot of people talk about Thomas Jefferson's Bible. And now there is a Bible called the Thomas Jefferson Bible. That's a modern name, by the way. It was never called that during his life. It was at the time. It was called the Morals and Principles of Jesus Christ, or something like that. I forget the exact name. It was not called the Jefferson Bible. It's modern day called that because people want to say that what he did is he took out all the miracles. And I'm elaborating here. I hope you don't mind.
Platform, brother.
When he did that, he took away a lot of the miracles that happened in the Bible. But people don't understand the context around that. Jefferson's one of my favorite presidents. I have a book. I have an entire shelf at home that is just full of books about Jefferson. But one of the reasons that he did that was because he wrote that, he read that his personal translation of the Bible that basically took out those miracles, talked about the morals and the principles of Jesus Christ. And he did that for Native Americans because he said if they hear these miracles and they hear about, blind men being healed, they're not going to believe that. And so we need to do something that they can probably understand. We got a call coming in here, JD.
All right, good deal.
This is Jeff. You're on there. Who are we talking to?
Hey, Jeff. How you doing, brother?
Doing good.
Brother Michael Gale, California.
Hey, brother Justin. How you doing, my bud?
Living the dream, brother. Living the dream. I know you got a prayer request too for Sister Elba.
Right.
Shoulder surgery coming up. But go ahead, Deborah. How you feeling?
I'm doing okay. Just hanging in there and just trying to get past this, stupid, ridiculous, bioweapon. I call it a bioweapon. I don't call it a virus or anything. I know it was used against the American people. Was it to test us, or was it what it was? I don't know. But all I know is that this is just, it's terrible, that people have to be away from each other. And I'm just glad that in Sacramento, a lot of people had a rally over there at the and we're just, showing that they're just tired of this. They're being tired of being told what to do, and that's not America. And
that's right.
It's got to change.
Right. And I got a question for you. If many people don't know, Brother Michael Gale, he's a disabled vet. He was one of the awesome soldiers that would rappel out of helicopters. And they did a lot of training and rescue missions after Mount St. Helen erupted, and they continued to have training after the fact. And a lot of people don't realize that the ash that comes from volcanoes have microscopic, it's called glaze, I believe. It's glass. So he suffers from, I believe, stage 3 or stage 2 COPD. Brother Michael Gale, and he's got a real bad back from rappelling out of helicopters. And he gets just such minute money, him and his wife, his pension, and he relies on our Heavenly Father and his church to help when it comes to food, etc. But I know this is your platform. I'm sorry. I've known Michael so long. How does it make you feel when you see what's happening to our rights and what's going on in America today, even all across the world, knowing that you served for our country proudly, and you always say that if you could, you would do it all over again?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I definitely would. If I was young again, I'd serve my country again, and if I would have to, if it came down to it, I'd give my life for my country. I mean, it's not a choice, but if it was something that I would have to do, I would definitely do it because, this is our country. We have to protect it. We have to protect the people that are here.
Amen.
People that step up and serve in the military. Everybody has a different role, and just depends on what you're good at. But
Michael, I just want to throw out there with that comment too. That goes back to what someone said in the comments earlier about, your calling may be military. Your calling may also be in your local government. It may be at your state level, or maybe, here in Virginia, we've got Daniel Gade, who's running for the U.S. Senate, and he's a Christian. He's a double Purple Heart veteran. He's an amputee. He lost his leg serving in the military in the Middle East. And so, his calling after his military career is to now go into politics. He wants to continue serving the people and the Constitution. So, and brother Michael, by the way, I just want to say this too. We did see your prayer request on church this morning. I actually talked to my father-in-law after that. He's absolutely praying for you. With the way the church service works, once we do those prayer requests, all the continuing prayer requests that come in, it really broke my heart that I saw your comment, your prayer request, just a few minutes after we called those out. And so I apologize. I want to apologize to you personally, but I want you to know it was definitely heard, and we definitely prayed for you. We know our viewers prayed for you all as well. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, what happened was with my wife. She's been having a lot of shoulder pain, and she's just been dealing with it for years, and so she finally, we didn't have very good insurance, and so she ended up getting some insurance, and she saw a specialist, and the shoulder specialist said that she has some torn ligaments in her shoulder, and so he's going to try to repair that, and it's going to take some time for her because she's going to have that shoulder in one position, and she's going to be in that for 9 months, and then she's going to have to go for physical therapy and all that stuff. So she's definitely wants prayer. Make sure that God's in the doctor's hands, and that he does exactly what he needs to do, so that way she will recover from her having this pain, because sometimes she doesn't even sleep at night. She's just so much in pain. So yeah,
we'll definitely be in prayer for her as well. Definitely both you guys in the situation.
Sister Alba, she's wonderful, and I tell you what, she has put up with a lot with Brother Michael. So now it's going to be your time to wait on her hand and foot there, brother. But our Heavenly Father, he is the great and almighty physician. So it's definitely going to go very well with her. And Brother Jason Arrington, great show, guys. Sorry I'm not there in person, just spending time with the kids, but I'm listening through the loudspeaker. Much love to all. Great to be listening. That's awesome. Love you, Brother Jason. If y'all don't know, Jason is Jeff's brother, blood brother, and then my brother as well, just not blood.
We don't know. He's our Wilson. So for those viewers,
he still hadn't showed his face.
Yeah, well, so I don't have my other laptop in here. It's my fault that he's probably not here, because I don't have the other camera here right now. But for y'all that ever saw Home Improvement, there was Wilson with Tim the Toolman Taylor and his neighbor Wilson. You always just saw him, like this right here. You saw his eyes and so Jason is our very own Wilson. He's just not in the house tonight. He's had a lot going on, and so y'all remember him in his prayers as well, because he could definitely use the prayers. We could all use prayers, right? So,
right. Most definitely.
And definitely unspoken prayers. People, God knows where those prayers are meant to go and what they're for. Some people, they might be battling addiction. They might be battling something, but they're too ashamed to say, hey, will you pray for this certain thing? That's what an unspoken prayer is all about. And I strongly encourage people, even on my channel, that are new. If you want prayer, just drop it in the we have prayer warriors, and so do you. And you have a bigger following on Facebook, don't you?
We do. We have, so on Facebook we've got 2,300 members, over 2,300 members in Scott County, in the Scott County VA Gun Group. And again, this YouTube channel has been a phenomenal outreach. It's certainly been able to reach out. And let me take this moment too to throw this out there. People always ask, they say, I'm not in Virginia. What does this mean for me? Guys, it's important to understand what's happening in Virginia, because one, if Virginia continues to fall, it's only a matter of time before it gets on your front doorsteps. So I'll tell you right now, my dedication, my message is, it's going to stop in Virginia. We're going to get back our rights. We're going to take this back at the ballot. One way or the other, we're going to get our rights back. It ends in Virginia. This cancer spreads no more. So, but it's important because it helps to get involved in your local environment, your local politics, and make sure that it doesn't happen for you. So,
brother David Fodor right there's got a very good comment. I don't know. You should
oops.
Right above you.
Yep.
Yeah. Jeff, can I tell you a little story?
Absolutely.
That had something happened to me, that what you guys were talking about. When I was younger, I was in the military, but I was home, and all of a sudden, this guy, he started. Well, I knew the guy, but I didn't know him really that good. But he ended up coming over, and he started sticking his knife through my door, and and I had a shotgun, and I told him, I guess he was really drunk. and I have my wife and my baby daughter, and in the home, and so he was trying to break in, and I told him, if you come through this door, I will have to shoot you.
Mm-hmm.
I will have to kill you, and he said, well, go ahead. I got my head up against the door. Go ahead and pull the trigger. I don't know if he was trying to do suicide or what he was trying to do, but he was almost ready to get through, and the police showed up, and
wow.
Someone heard the commotion, and they called the police, and they arrested him and stuff like that. But the officer said, if you would have came through, would you have shot him? I said, yeah, I'm in the military. I would hit, there's no problem. I would have had to shoot him.
That's right.
I'm going to save my wife and my daughter. And so I've been, if I wouldn't have had that, then I would have to go hand-to-hand combat with him. But what happens if I'm trained to fight with somebody like that. But what happens if it's just a regular, small Joe, he's got a wife and kids, and he doesn't have any kind of hand-to-hand combat training or any kind of a weapon? I mean, what is he going to do? This guy's intent on trying to kill you and harm your wife and your daughter. You have to do whatever you have to do to protect them. But, you need to have something. You need to have something because you don't have hand-to-hand combat. You need to have some kind of a weapon in your home.
Well, and not only that, Michael, but, think about it. I mean, if even if you have a knife or, even with hand-to-hand combat, if they're coming through your door with a firearm, I hate to say it, but a knife, unless you're very well trained, like someone such as yourself, and you kind of get the jump on them, and you in the situation's right where you're close enough that you can use that effectively. As the old saying goes, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight, right?
Right.
So, that's an incredible story, and that shows first case. One of the reasons, thank God the law enforcement was able to show up in time, but maybe a matter of seconds, and like you said, you'd have been had to face with that horrible situation to take someone's life to protect your own. But that's your God-given right. It comes down to that choice. And like JD was saying with his analogy, you have to choose. Is my ideology more important than my family's life?
Exactly.
And so, God bless you for having to go through that. I couldn't imagine. Could you imagine what that would have felt like, Michael, if you hadn't had your firearm and you were just sitting there with a phone in your hand? I can't even imagine that.
When you said that, it gave me goosebumps, and I'll cut you off, Brother Michael. But there on A&E, there's I think it's on A&E TV series, which I don't have cable or anything anymore. I just watch YouTube or whatever. But I noticed that they have it up. It's real 911 calls. Have you ever heard that? And you hear people that are out in the country, where you hear people, women that actually, thank God, they have firearms, and some of them they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 minutes seems like, oh, that's nothing. But when you have a grown man or a couple grown men kicking in doors and you're hiding in a closet, that 4 minutes has got to feel like eternity.
Yeah.
I'm talking about women and men too, that are unarmed, but I think that should be, some people should have to listen to some phone calls like that. Well, it's infringing on your rights, but like a family member, say, hey, if you got a family member that's, I can't stand guns and this and that, blah, blah, find that series and play a couple of those 911 calls and let them get that feeling of that pit in their stomach and feel that fear if it does, happen. And I strongly believe that the way the world's going right now with this pandemic and the food shortage, etc., that there is going to be, we have protests now, but eventually there's going to be riots and there's going to be civil unrest. And if there is a major food shortage, like they're saying there's going to be, because I have some inside information through AB, but some information that's actually I'm only going to say this real quick. Just 2 days ago, there was a large shipment of chicken thighs that was shipped. And you know where it was shipped to? Processed here in the United States, but shipped over to China because China happens to own that poultry. Brazil owns quite a few of the poultry manufacturing companies here, the farms and where they butcher them, etc. So with China owning a large percentage, and you see what's happening. Farmers are having to till the food back into the ground, and the beef cattle, they're having to, I don't know.
Well,
I'm trying not to get off topic.
Let me add to this, Jenny, because in one of our last call-ins, we actually had Travis Anderson. He called in our last live show. He's the representative for the gun group in Wise County, which is a neighboring county to Scott County. So for all of Southwest Virginia, he called in. He's a member of Emergency Services, and he actually shared with us that he said the county is actually having conversations about an upcoming food shortage. So for people that might want to scoff at that and laugh at that and think that's silly, even official county services are actually trying to prepare for this and considering what will have to happen in that scenario. So he called in and shared that. It's already public record, so I can share that out there.
Yeah, and people scoffed at the whole thing about shelter in place, and when I started talking about it, I'm not saying I was ahead of the ball, but people were like, "Oh, that's crazy. It'll never happen." Then they said, we don't have to, we need to wear masks. Then it was don't wear masks. And then now in certain oh, go ahead. I forgot. Sorry, Brother Michael. I forgot he was on. I didn't forget he was on the phone.
That's all right. No problem. And it's just want to get off here so that way somebody else can jump in. I just appreciate you both. As Americans, true Americans, we have fake Americans, but as true Americans, we really, really have to fight for our right for our Second Amendment, because
Amen. It
really is being attacked. And like you said, Jeff, it's our God-given right to have it. We're a country that is, as long as we're not being bothered, we're fine with that. But once you start bothering us, then we're going to wake up. Well,
That's
it's
right.
the same thing. We have to wake up. We have to wake up as Americans and say, we have to protect our families. We have to protect our friends and our country. So, people just really got to wake up.
That oath says, Michael, foreign and domestic. And that addition of and domestic is not there by accident.
Exactly. Forefathers knew.
So, Michael, thank you very much for your service too, brother. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Much love and God bless. And Sister Lisa, you're right. China owns Smithfields. That's a huge, large meat distribution. But Sam reports. I wish she would call in and talk about when I remember this happening the other day. It blew my mind about where we got the cattle or where we bought our beef. Was I can't even pronounce it. I don't even know where that is. Is that in Africa or something?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. So we bought our beef from another country. Well, it's just.
Can try to get in.
All right, Michael. Listen, brother. I appreciate.
I'm sorry. I thought he.
It's all good. Michael, thank you, brother. God bless you. Be in prayers, brother.
Okay. God bless.
God bless.
You good? Keep going, Jenny. Go ahead, brother.
No, I would love if Sam had the time, Sister Sam, to call in and talk about this. I mean, she's got a great channel as well. I don't know if she has the time, but if people haven't heard about that, that's just mind blowing.
It's interesting because they're also having some states, on that same report with beef and chicken. Some states are reporting that they're considering seeds non-essential, and so there are, you can go into some markets and you can buy. Your produced food that's already ready to eat. But if you ask for seeds so that maybe you can become a little bit self-sufficient, or maybe you just want to grow something that just tastes better. Maybe you want to do a hybrid of some sort. Guys, there are people that plant things all the time and they'll merge them together and come up with new hybrids. But they're considered non-essential. And people can't buy seeds in some locations now.
Yeah, the great state of Michigan. Great state of Michigan. Yep. And a couple other governors joined on the bandwagon. They tried that here for a few days. They had the non-essential stuff roped off, and I guess that didn't fly here in Wisconsin. But even like with the Agenda 21, in Michigan right now, it's illegal to mow your front yard. You're not even allowed to go outside and mow your yard. So you have these governors that are turning in, and they're they're digging their own grave, and I don't mean that bodily harm wise. I mean to get reelected.
Yes, that's right.
Because when election time does come, you think these people are going to re-elect this governor that told them that they weren't allowed to buy seeds and you can't grow your garden? And that's another thing too with this food shortage. It's coming at a very vital time, but there are going to be people that are going to be sitting back that never heeded warning about stocking up on food, canning, etc.
Yep.
And you're going to know Granny Smith and Grandpa Smith down the road have been canning for years, and every year they have a garden out there. And they're so. Those are going to be some of the people. The old farmers that are some of the best preppers that ever worked. They lived off the land, etc.
Let me add this. Love Pugs put out here. We need to get in touch with the farmers and find a way to get that food to people. I agree. So another one of the groups we're working with here in Southwest Virginia is the Creed group out of Russell County. Someone's calling in. Let's go ahead and take his call. I'm going to finish this comment. This is Jeff. Who are we speaking to?
Yeah, hi. I'm calling for the show.
Yes, ma'am. You're on the air. Who we got online? Who's
Sister Sam?
Is that Sister Sam?
Oh my God, I'm sorry. This is Sam Report.
Sam Reports. It's great to have you online.
Thank you.
I was just making a comment real quick. If you don't care, I'm just going to wrap up this thought. The Russell County Creed group is a group we facilitated their first team meeting here a few weeks ago during the quarantine situation. And one of the things that they're actually trying to do, they're getting, I would say they're doing a fantastic job getting very formalized with their particular group. And their group is going to go into things about like how to can, how to grow food, how to prepare food, even things like sewing and knitting. I mean, they're really branching this out, saying, listen, it's all about self-sufficiency. And one of the things they mentioned was to even get with farmers within their group and try to work out in addition to local farmers markets, a more of a food distribution if it came down to it. So just wanted to throw that out there. But
that's a solid point.
Sister Sam, it's great to hear you online. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm calling for one thing. For a couple things, actually. That one of them is underneath all of my videos, you don't have to like, subscribe, or anything. There is my email address. I've been sending these out to people, even if up into Canada, who can't purchase seeds. And I'll be happy to send them to you at no cost. You don't have to worry about that. Your information safe, and I'll just trash it afterwards. But that being said, like Lock and Load knows. See, what happened was about a month and a half, 2 months ago, there was a huge fire, and it wiped out over 250,000 chickens. That
Wow.
includes their eggs. Then what happened is we lost recently another 2 million. Then we had another fire just days back, wiping out another 280,000 laying egg chickens. They're slaughtering the pigs, as you know. I haven't heard anything about the turkeys yet, but now they're telling our cattlemen to kill their livestock while they're bringing in this amphibian meat that came into the U.S. last Monday, and it hit Philadelphia 2 days later, and they're not disclosing that it's amphibian beef, which does not have any USA security on it. We don't know what they're doing over there. And but we're supposed to kill our cattle. So, and the other thing I want to say, in case people don't know, Washington State notified the federal government quite some time ago that they were running out of the gases to run the filters for purifying water. A number of days ago, not that long, maybe 6-7 days or so ago, the federal government got back in touch with them finally and told them that the U.S. government is going to cut the water supply by 50%.
What?
This is dire, because one thing is we can go longer without food than we can go without water.
That's right. Well, you know, I mean, all those critical systems to our infrastructure, you know, I mean, you know, you take out the highways, then you take out logistics for supply chains for multiple different venues of necessities, from water to, you know, electrical to sewage to food. I mean, there's the food chain breaks down. There's a lot of different things that can go wrong by interrupting some of these different markets. So yeah, things like that. I saw someone just comment here. It was David Fodder commented and said, you know, learning homesteading and survival skill sets should be something you should try to do right now. You don't want to wait for an emergency before you try this. And the thing I tell people is it's not freaking out. You know, if people call you, want to make fun of you, call you a prep or whatever, you know, listen, there are natural disasters that can occur. I mean, we in Scott County here a number of years ago had 7 days without power. Now, for folks that live in urban areas that have, you know, septic tanks, that may not be a big issue if you're connected to city water because the city water still works. But if you're like us and you're in the county in a rural area and you're dependent upon a well, unless you have a generator, you don't even have water. So, you know, not only can you not drink, but, you know, flushing the commode becomes very difficult. And people can talk about snow or whatever else. But the point of it is there's nothing wrong with being prepared. I tell people that all the time. Be prepared for anything. It's just, to me, it's just healthy to do that. So that's great to hear the updates there. Sam, JD, you got anything to say?
Well, what you're saying about being a prepper, you know, it was taboo back then. But, you know, and people thought, oh, that's the end of the world conspiratorial whack jobs, you know, this and that. No, it's for, you know, blizzards. It's for floods, just like where you live. You know, when it rains hard, if you're like a huge percentage of Americans that have less than 2 days worth of food in their house because they like to go out to eat every night, you know, you're not going to be able to survive, you know, going 7, 8, 10 days without being able to get food, get water. But you make a really good point. A lot of people don't think this. They're like, well, I'll be fine with water because I've got a well. Well, when the power goes out, your well doesn't work, you know, and if you don't have a generator. But there are YouTube videos where you can, in a really bad situation, if you lose power, you lose everything, and you have a well. My brother actually taught me how to do it. But there's YouTube videos. You could take a long PVC pipe, depending on how deep your well is. It's a shallow well. And you take a racquetball and you use it as a float, kind of like when you play with a straw and you put it in the water and you put your finger on it, you lift it up and the water stays in it. You know, there's ways to take the water out of your well, so to speak.
That's right.
But yeah, I hate to say, look who's laughing now, because that's, you know, kind of, but yeah, people are like, oh, the end of the world, or, you know, the government collapse or pandemic. That's never going to happen. Y'all are nuts. Well, guess what? Look who's got, you know, who's the crazy one now? The one that bought a couple extra cans of food here and there and bought some more ammo and this and that, or the ones that went out to eat to Carrabba's or whatever every single night and ordered pizza. But yeah, is she still on the phone?
Yeah, Sister Sammy, you got anything else you want to?
Sorry.
No, it's good, brother.
No, because if anybody thinks that your government won't do to you what they're doing in New Mexico, the governor there is preventing a whole city from coming or going, and the Navajo and others are suffering because they have to go into that city to get their clear water to drink. So if the government won't do it to us, I'm sorry, you're sorely mistaken, because like everything they do beforehand, it's a dry run. Just like now, pay attention to what's going on in New Mexico. It's a dry run of what they're going to be doing across the nation.
That's right. Well, and like the old saying says, any government big enough to give you everything you need is powerful enough to take away everything. A government big enough to give you everything you want is big enough to take away everything you need.
Right. And what Sister Sam said, I don't know if you knew about it, but I just learned about it last night. In New Mexico, the Navajo, which is it's an Indian reservation, but the governor blocked off roads, and they called it the Riot Act, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a form of martial.
Yeah.
Yeah, form of martial law. So they basically have all the Indian reservation, all the roads leading out, so they can get their fresh water and their food supply. They have it blocked off by law enforcement, not letting them in, letting them out to go get their water and stuff. They're being held captive, and this is in New Mexico. And after we get off here, I'll call you and fill you in more on it, Jeff. And I think it'd be something great that you know, along with what you're doing here, is, you know, mention it too, because like you said, you know, and like Sam says, you know, united we stand,
right.
You know, divided we fall, and we have to help our other, you know, states, and, you know, the people of New Mexico, and, you know, help you all in Virginia as well. So if you happen to see a tyrannical governor, you know, get the word out, because I had no idea this was going on until last night. And but I thank you again, Sister Sam, for bringing that up.
And I should one more thing, please.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what's going to come down the pike. I strongly encourage everybody to use this time to gain skills, because we might get right down to bartering food for skills, etc. Keep that in your mind as we move forward, because bartering is going to be important. Learn some skills now while you have that little gray area before whatever crap's going to hit the fan, because you're going to be needed, and your skills are going to be needed, and your talent. Please think of that as you go along. Thank you very much for having me on here, guys. God bless you both. Lock and load. I'll catch you later, and everybody in chat. Be safe. Bless up. You are not alone, and God has the final say in everything.
Amen, sister.
Amen. Thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you. All right, she dropped out there. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and by the way, there was someone there a few minutes ago was talking about calling in, so that just freed the lines up. I believe it was Eric was going to call in. So, Eric, if you're still watching, feel free to call in there. But we're wrapping it up on 2 hours here. It's been a great conversation, a lot of information. Justin, did you see that a few minutes ago? It came across there and it said that somebody had some information. It's probably them right there. This is Jeff. You're on there. Who are we talking to?
Hey, how's it going, sir? It's Eric Renault.
Eric, how you doing, brother?
Oh, pretty good. I just want to bring you guys' attention. Apparently, this morning, a raid possibly took place over in Venezuela.
Now, was that from us? The so-called ships that we had over there to keep an eye on the cartel, or
apparently, Maduro said that his forces are activated in the north or the south, the west, or whatever. I got a video, but yeah. So I just want to bring to you guys' attention that things could possibly be popping over there.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm sitting here Googling. It's not hit the news yet, so that's truly breaking news if something's going on. I'm tickled to death to hear that, so thank you for sharing that. Absolutely.
Well, you got to realize, too, I don't know if you know this, but there is such a distraction going on with this coronavirus and stuff, you know, when it comes to Venezuela. The dictatorship, they had taken a loan from China. I don't know if it was 100 billion or how many billions. And see, Venezuela, a lot of people don't know, they don't have the best oil. It costs a lot of money to refine their oil. It's not like the oil that Saudi Arabia has. So it's kind of like your generic oil, so to speak. It's thick. It's kind of, they say it's garbage oil. But they took a loan from China, and in return, China was to get their oil. Well, after a while, they went behind the scenes and they offered Russia came in with more money and said, hey, we want, you know, we'll give you a loan, so to speak. And so they did the same thing. So now you got tensions between Russia and China, because China paid for that oil and Russia did too. So, and then we have
lockdown over here, you know.
Eric, question for you, just a quick question. I'm sitting here. The one thing I did find in Venezuela is they're referring to they're accusing Colombia of attempting a terrorist sea invasion. It says they killed 8. This has just been in the last couple hours. Is it related to that or something different you're referring to?
No, few things I got here on Twitter that are popping up talking about it, and there's a video of this guy and this commander that are talking. This Venezuelan commander is telling him that the forces are on the ground activated, and they were fighting this morning. But they are saying that they did. They intercepted the try. I don't know how true that is. There's a lot of different things that are coming out on it.
Well, yeah, and you know, and we need to keep in mind that, I mean, if it is Colombia, I mean, I mean, America does obviously work with different forces, so it could be this, it could be something different. But just, I guess, for all of our viewers to stay tuned and maybe follow up on the situation, right?
Yeah,
Well, absolutely.
on it. Yeah, but all right.
All right, man. Listen, I appreciate the call, JD. You got anything else?
Well, no, I'm definitely going to follow up on that, and when I get off here, Sister Sam, she said thank you for having me. Just thought I'd put that in there for you. And Brother Mitchell Reese has the link ninja to Eric Watchman. That's Eric Who Knows. That's his channel. He's starting out as well. So if you want any information on things that are going on in Venezuela, just like a lot of people don't know that Russia actually a while back landed one of their bombers in Cuba. I don't know if they have one or two now. So rumors of war, etc. It's not just what's happening on our soil. There's other things we still have to. Don't get so distracted in tunnel vision on what's going on. Always keep an open mind and see what's happening. Because
like Eric's channel, I mean, a lot of people need to understand that getting away from the mainstream media, there's a lot of YouTube venues where people can come and get up-to-date news. People are good about doing references. You're going to hear things that are breaking. Always encourage people to follow up and check things yourself. Fact check. That's always good.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be like the Democrats. The Democrats. And that was accidental, right? Crazy lefties and spread a bunch of ignorance. So, and by the way, I don't mean that at all for this. I'm just saying in general, we don't want to come across and say something that's false, and then people hear that, and that's because it's going to discount everything. So fact check things. It's a good thing to do. Fact check me. I tell people that all the time. Take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm going to be honest with you. So, Eric, you're trying to say something? Go ahead.
That's their backyard. That's Venezuela.
That's right.
And that's another thing too. And I was I was right there with you, Eric. People don't realize Cuba, Venezuela, all that is the closest that it's our backyard. Like you said, it's very, 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 very close. But look what I did breaking news at 1 o'clock in the morning where North Korean troops shot at South Korea.
Yep.
Back and forth. It was just short exchange. Nobody was shot or killed, but tensions are real high right now all around the world.
Yep.
And so it's definitely time to. And I trust Eric, his channel. He digs deep in his research, and so do you. So,
Eric, do you have anything else? I appreciate you calling. Is there anything else on your mind?
No, that was all. Thanks for having me on, and have a good night.
Eric, thanks for calling, brother.
That's big news.
That is big news. Eric, thanks again for calling, brother. Yeah, gosh, yeah, it's good to hear about breaking things like that that's going on. Absolutely. So his link's up. I put it up, or Mitchell Reese posted that. It's up to Eric Watchman, and there is a link to his YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out as well, guys. Definitely.
All right, that's a great idea too. On Pockets too. On that'd be great for Eric to do. But steer right back onto the topic before we get off here. I think you honestly should get together with D-Len and figure out a way. And when it comes to these ballots, if have your people that have elderly parents or grandparents or whatever that choose we're going to mail them in, just say, hey, we'll go ahead and take them for you. We'll mail them ourselves or something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Help the best way you can. Do not let an organization. You remember Acorn back when Obama was elected? Remember all that election fraud? Yeah. And I think this is the most important election that I think we've ever had.
Yep.
That's coming up.
Well, And people need to understand that it's important that they keep in mind about how important their vote is. Their vote does count. If again, let's reiterate this. If you at all can't go in person, guys, you've got to do that. Challenge your family, challenge your roommates, challenge your siblings, challenge folks in the office in your workspace. I know that's not necessarily a popular thing. Society's been dumbed down to a sense where, we say we can't talk about religion in the workplace. We can't talk about politics. Listen, why don't we instead educate people about how to have those conversations, right? I mean, you shouldn't go in there and criticize someone for having a different opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are important things. I mean, if you want to just talk about your recipes, if that's all that's important to you in life, that's your right. That's your freedom. But, whenever someone starts knocking at your door saying you can no longer use, Italian blah, blah, blah sauce in your cooking material because it's no longer in the supply chain, or we don't have an agreement with that country, or we just don't want, we want to preserve it and only we can use that, not you. There's not enough to go around. At that point in time, you're going to realize, I probably should have been doing a little bit more than just talking about cheese and crackers. So
you're 100% correct. Hey, wake up.
If you don't bother to vote, you can't complain. That's exactly right. So yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right. And that's what I said earlier. If you don't vote, you don't have a lot of say to complain about it. And I do agree with that.
Absolutely. And we're just talking about you, a wake up. And some of y'all, I strongly urge you to, if you could put your link in the chat, not my platform, but Jeff. I was on a wake up last night when it was the one of her people that came on the panel that said the Second Amendment rally did nothing for the legislation, so to speak, with all the Second Amendment bills but in turn, the rally did a lot. We talked about that earlier. So I know you don't want to touch back on it because we've been going 2 hours, 11 minutes. Well, actually, you were 30 minutes on before I even got on. But yeah, because my head was killing me. But yeah,
we'll probably go ahead and start to wrap it up here if it's okay, Jenny. We had first off, to all the callers that called in, guys, we really appreciate it. We will definitely, I'd actually like to try to make call-ins part of a routine part of our show because, again, this channel is for you guys. I like hearing folks what they have to say. It's great to hear from all the new folks. So wake up, Sister Sammy, Brother Michael, everybody else that called in, Eric. I encourage every one of our viewers, guys. You can get some fantastic news by just looking on YouTube. Choose, like everything else, choose your sources wisely, right? And there's nothing wrong. I always say, if someone gets mad about you questioning them, that's probably not someone that you really want to trust. Let's just be honest, okay?
Right.
I will tell you right now, you can second guess me, you can question me, call me out. You're not going to bother me, JD. I believe you feel the same way. It's a good thing to call people out and ask them. If they're standing with truth and if they're honest, they shouldn't be concerned with that. Now, if you get, to be the point where you're harassing somebody, that's different. Let's be very clear. But but definitely call things out. But I want to do as I always do when I close out our show. And so, JD, just stay on the line if you don't care. A few more minutes after we close down here.
I'm putting the link up for a wake up in the chat.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, a wake up, definitely. Yeah, So JD's gonna post that link. Mitchell Reese put it up here. He put it up. Let's put it up here right now.
Oh, did he? I beat him. I beat the link, Ninja. Mine's up top. I just didn't put a wake up in.
You did beat him. You did. It was right ahead of you, Mitchell.
I beat him.
You had a guest to join the panel. I would love to join that wake up. Absolutely. A wake up. Let me just put this back up on here one more time. We have an email, and I will definitely go check out and see if I can find your contact info. But across the bottom here, a wake up. If you see that, if you could just email me, I'd love to join a panel discussion. I love doing those. We've done them here on this channel, and every chance we can get together to talk, I would love and be an honor to come on the show and talk to you. It's a great opportunity. I really appreciate the offer. Thank you very, very much for that.
Absolutely.
As we always wrap up, I always like to wrap up my my shows with a bit of prayer. And I was sitting here thinking about it before the show, before we went live, and thinking about, what can I do? What would be a good verse of scripture? And I thought, with the COVID-19 stuff all going on, what I want to share to everybody, is out of Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 7. And it says, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." And what I was trying to think is, I thought, this is a troublesome time. We've got our rights being infringed, the Second Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, several different of our God-given rights are being infringed. We're worried about this food shortage. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now that doesn't bring a lot of confidence to things. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I want to do is I want to talk about, how do you find peace? How do you not worry? And that's what this is talking about. Be careful for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let it be known to God. Let your request be known to God. And so what that says to me is, listen, put your reliance on God. And, it's important to think about this too, JD. And a lot of times it's easy to get down on ourselves when we just think about God, by the way, is so big. We can just ask him. We can ask him for anything and everything. There's nothing too little, nothing too big. And if all we ever do is ask, God loves us. He will listen to us. But it says that through thanksgiving. And what I want to point there is I hope that also through this, we're all understand to be thankful for the things that we've got. We've got some wonderful things. We've got our family. This is a chance to be close with our family. I hope that coming out of this, maybe some family units that were maybe, experiencing problems or whatever, maybe they get closer from this, right? Maybe whenever you go back into society and you can there's been some people I've met during this. It was so awkward to get introduced and not be able to shake hands. Right? And I love shaking hands, JD. You know that.
Mm-hmm. And
go ahead.
No, I said and hugs too.
And hugs, that's right. When we come out of this, I hope we're all more thankful and a little bit more appreciative of those things. So, but even in this situation, prayer and supplication by thanksgiving, be sure to thank God for your blessings. If you've got your health, thank God for that. If you've got a sibling there with you or a spouse, a parents, children, whatever it is with you, you've got a car. There are some people that during this epidemic, the pandemic, they can't even get out and go anywhere, right? Without someone else giving them a ride. And then they got to wonder, okay, is that a violation of some sort of social distancing guideline? And they could get in trouble about that, right? They may have to rely on others to get their food. I think about when it comes to church, it's one thing that's really, really I like about a lot of the churches doing a virtual service is there was someone a few weeks ago, it was an atheist I was talking to, and they just don't get it. And guys, if you don't know God, it doesn't make as much sense. I'll acknowledge that. But they were saying that church is not necessity. They were saying, you don't understand it. Church is not necessary like food. And I replied to them and I said, listen, you don't have faith. There are people that rely on their faith the same way that they rely on their food or their water.
Amen.
And to them, church is absolutely an essential part of their life. We're going to see more suicides. We're going to see more depression. We're going to see a lot of guys, there are older folks and younger folks. Their only social interaction might be church. That gives me goosebumps to think about it. That's been taken from them. They don't get the opportunity to go out and see people. So, think about those people. If you've got a neighbor, maybe don't knock on their door, but hold up a sign at the street or whatever, say, I love you. Hold up a sign, I'm here for you if you need anything. It'll mean a lot. So be thankful for what you've got, because I can promise you there's someone that that probably has less. And just keep that in mind, guys. JD, any closing thoughts?
What you said is a great idea. And if you do have elderly neighbors and stuff that don't know much about technology and they talk about their grandkids and stuff, go to Walmart now. You can buy a small tablet for $40 that'll get you linked in to FaceTime or whatever, and teach your elderly neighbor how to link up and talk to their loved ones, their grandkids and stuff like that. When you were talking about that, it just popped in my head. Technology that we have now is a very important time to use it. But hearing a voice on the phone is great. But nowadays, to see a face and see what, that could be, and like you said, church service. They can go on YouTube. The tablets now, they're not. You can buy the very expensive ones, but you can. That's how I started my first channel. It was a $38 tablet when I first started my channel, and my cell phone, and it had a crack in it. And I managed to get up to 5,000 subscribers before I got the 300-year-old computer. But use technology, like I said, if you know somebody
and share it with them.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I want to say. And
I want Brother Mitchell Reese, Brother Mitchell Reese, whenever I see people post scripture, I always try to call it up. He called out Revelations chapter 21, verse 4, and it says, "And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away." And, I want to share this, just a closing thought, if you don't care. I know I'm talking a lot, but just throw this out there.
It's your channel, man. You're doing great.
It's in this lifetime, we are promised nothing. We are actually, in fact, in this lifetime, you're promised sorrow. You're promised pain. You're promised grief. This is a fallen world, guys, okay? And a lot of people, they don't accept that. They don't want to deal with that. A lot of these folks that think they're entitled, that, life should be given to them and they should be given all kinds of things. They should be given money. They should be given food. That's not a promise of this world. Now, and it's in this particular, I'm not incredibly familiar with this particular verse out of Revelations, but what that speaks to my heart, there's not a lot that I can control on this earth, but one thing I can control is my salvation. And what that says to me right there is, I know the one guarantee I know I have, I'm a saved, born again Christian, and I know when I die, I know exactly where I'm going to spend eternity. And that there's nothing, no one can take that from me. No one, you can beat my head and beat me completely, where I can't speak, I can't think. It doesn't matter. When I die, I know where I'm going, and nothing can take that away from me. So, I guess I would say to me, even with your Second Amendment rights, guys, whatever can be, we know through Revelations that it's going to get worse before it gets better. Now, that doesn't mean we sit back and we accept that, because we don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or tonight when Revelations occurs and the fulfillment of prophecy, or 1,000 years from now. I was just having a conversation with my father-in-law. I said, I know what's going to happen in the end. And I know in the end it's going to be okay when God brings down a second earth. And whenever I die, if I'm in heaven, I know it's going to be okay. But what also is important is to understand that, here on this earth, you can't take my salvation away from me. And that's the most important thing. The Second Amendment can be taken away. And again, even though we know it's coming, we're not going to sit back and just let that happen. We can't just sit back and let that happen. But find your salvation, guys. And that's, Brother Reese, I appreciate you sharing that. I don't know if that's what you had in your mind, but that's what it says to me. So thank you.
Oh, I guarantee you that's what he had. One thing too, a wake up, yes, even a phone call can bring someone comfort. And now's the time to let go of resentment. If you have sisters or brothers, this and that, or me and my father just started speaking again just last week. We really didn't talk after my brother passed away. So that's been a huge, weight lifted off my shoulders, and I've let go of resentment from when I was younger. And, that's something in times like this, you got to try to let go of. And, but that's when we were talking about, if you don't have faith and if you don't believe in God, you don't, that's where what's helped me with my faith is why I always say never fear death, is because if you just, you're born again, you believe that Christ died on the cross for our sins and that he rose from the dead 3 days later, you're saved. I don't believe in once saved, always saved. I don't believe that you can get saved and then you can go out and murder 3 people innocent. I think that's just one of my, one thing.
What I've told people, I say, if you do that, if that's the way your mindset is, you have to ask. I think you were never saved.
Amen.
You may have thought, and you might have been deceived by the devil, but you've never really been saved. Because once you're saved, you're born again. Things of old are put away, and you take on things of new. You are a new creature.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree with you.
All right. Okay, that's all what I was getting at. But yeah, you're gonna pray us out. And once again, it was an honor, pleasure, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you and Jason for what you've done. And I know your family's been a big part of this. And watching your, what are you up to? You're up to 691 subscribers. That just blows me away. And you're continuing to grow. And I remember when you started out at like 5. So
you're a huge part of that, the Richmond trip, and most of all, to God be the glory. I want to say one more thing to what you were just saying, because it's and I'm not trying to make this. I'm nowhere where I need to be with the Bible and with God. I know I'm nowhere near where I need to be. But I want to say this, because this is one thing that also, you just said something a moment ago. And you said, it's one thing when you talk to a non-believer or even a believer and you talk about, Christ died on the cross for me and 3 days later he rose. I mean, I heard that for so many years, but it was one night when I was just sitting around reflecting, and I thought about this, and I really firmly believe this. It talks about God knowing counting the hairs on your head and knowing every star by name. And I thought about this, and I thought, it's amazing to think, and I really, truly believe this. The Bible doesn't say this, but I really believe this. When Jesus Christ was hanging on that cross, JD, this makes, every time I think of this, I get a little choked up and my hairs kind of stand up. But to think that God hanging on that cross, he could have came off that cross. He could have just pulled himself right down from that. But he thought of you. He thought of me individually. I'm not, he thought J.D. Welch. He thought Jeff Arrington. He thought of every single human being that will ever live in that, hanging on that cross. He is a personal God. He doesn't generalize. He wasn't hanging up there and thinking, I'm going to do this for everybody. No. He's God. He thought of every single person that will ever live, and he thought about him on that cross. Your name went through his mind when he was. I really believe that, because he's a personal God. He doesn't generalize. The God of the Muslims. If you read the Quran, he's a God. He doesn't care about individuals. The God of the Muslims, it's a generic thought, and you do things to serve him that he might recognize you and look down upon you and maybe give you some sort of grace. Guys, the Christian God is so much. He knows you personally before your parents even knew you. It's amazing to think about that. So I just wanted to share.
It's the beginning and he's the end, and he is the only God. The Alpha and the Omega. There is no Allah, but that's, we won't go down that rabbit hole, but we can on my channel. But you're absolutely right. The Quran teaches, Sharia law teaches that it's okay to lie to the infidel. We are taught to tell the truth, so what kind of religion do you follow when you're taught it's okay to lie? It's okay to kill the infidel. Give me a break. It's garbage. But, much love.
Brother Reach shared out that link to Darth Little Baptist Church. I wanted to put that up there, guys. In case you don't have a virtual church family you can join, we'd love to have you at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Darth Little Baptist Church, and we'd love to have you join us there. It'd be great.
On Sundays.
Yes, sir. On Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern. Sorry, I didn't say out the day, did I?
You're welcome.
All right, guys. I'm going to close us out in prayer. And JD, any more closing thoughts one last time?
Just proud of you. That's all.
I appreciate it. All right, we're going to close out in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just want to thank you, God, for this day. Lord, thank you for this chance, God. We talk about prayer and supplication through thankfulness. God, when I came up here, I had no idea that I was going to be on here for 2 hours. But God, this is not about me. It's not about my plan. It's not about JD's plan. It's not about any of our plan. Lord, this is your plan. Whatever your will is, God, I ask that you open our hearts and our minds to be wholly accepting of whatever your will is. If tonight's the night whenever you're going to tell your son, Jesus Christ, to go get his bride, then God, I pray for all the souls that are watching this, that they prepare themselves for in any time, any moment, any twinkling of a star or a beat of a heart, they can be called out of this world, God. It may be the time for Christ to come back and claim his bride. Lord, whether that be now or 1,000 years from now, Lord, prepare us and open our hearts and our minds to be prepared for that moment whenever that time comes. Father, I ask prayers over the sick and afflicted, Brother Michael and his wife, Alba. Lord, just pray for them, a special prayer over them. Lord, a special prayer over all those spoken and unspoken prayer requests, family members, friends, the elderly, the sick, the afflicted, and the lost. God, just ask that you touch every single one of them in a way and only you can, whether that be through a touch of healing, a touch of confidence, a touch of compassion, a touch of whatever it needs to be. Maybe that through the Holy Spirit, Lord, they learn to accept you as their Lord and Savior and accept Christ Jesus hanging on the cross. Thinking of them individually, thinking of their name, went across your mind as you were hanging on the cross. God, I just ask that you open their hearts and minds to see that and understand and accept you. Just say the sinner's prayer and just accept you as their Lord and Savior and just acknowledge their sins and say, God, they want to be a better life. They want a better walk. They want to walk with you. Maybe they were deceived. Maybe they thought they did it years ago. Maybe as a child they thought they did. But God, open their hearts. Let them do some internal reflection and understand where they really stand with you as a one-on-one God. You don't generalize. Lord, open their heart to hear what you have to say to them. Father, I thank you again for this technology, God. It's just a wonderful way to outreach. Father, I ask if it's your will that you bless our mission, you bless what we're doing here, Lord, and just bless JD, bless all the channels, all the callers that called in tonight. Lord, we all have wants, needs, and desires. God, you know them before we even know them. And I just ask, Lord, that you'd intercede if it's your will and take care of each one of those. All these things in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen, brother. That was powerful. Beautiful.
Amen. Listen, as we always say, guys, stay safe, fight the good fight, keep your firearms close, but keep God closer. And JD, I'm going to let you also do your shout out because I love your shout out. Go for it, brother.
Oh, okay. Fear no man, never fear death. Get right with God, fight the good fight, and always stay locked and loaded.
Awesome.
God bless.
Guys, God bless y'all. Thank you very much. Have a great night, great weekend, great week.